Hello again, friends, and you are our friends, and welcome back to another edition of Jim Cornette's Drive Thru right here on another beautiful summer's day. We are back for more action here on the show. I am your host, the great Brian Last, and of course, the star of the show, the man who's enjoying summer because, as we all know, he loves the outdoors, Mr. Jim Cornette.
Yeah, blow it out your Brian Last. You know, a lot of people say Jim Cornette could even complain about good weather, and that's exactly what I'm about to do because it's going to be 81 degrees with low humidity and beautiful sunny skies here in Louisville, Kentucky today, and I can't enjoy it because I can barely walk. And I will explain this is why the program is late. The medical reasons abound at Castle Cornette. The program is a day late this week. At least we haven't got through this yet, and I'm not convinced that I can at this point. But the first thing, I haven't mentioned this, but I don't believe I've mentioned it, but Stacy's mother has been in the hospital a couple of times over the last month, and they took her back this past week, and they let Stacy know on Friday that they were going to be doing, and I'm not a doctor and I don't know what, let's say some type of heart procedure. They bandied a couple of things about, and one of them sounded worse than the other, which turns out to be not the thing they're going to do. But anyway, so over the weekend, she got a last minute ticket, obviously out to California to go be there for today, which is Tuesday as we're recording, her mother's heart procedure, and we all wish her the best. Her mother, and Stacy also. And so that was planned. So she's going to be out there for a while, but I'm okay. Great. The all new JimCornette.com is not up yet. The store is not open. This is as good a time as any for me to be going it alone, keeping track of Harley Quinn, being a single parent here. And literally 12 hours before Stace went to the airport to go to California, I go out in the yard day before yesterday, which was another lovely day. And that's why I went out in the yard and I stuck a couple of yard flags in the ground to mark where some touch-ups on some things needed to be done, and bent over to stick a flag in the ground and nearly paralyzed myself some kind of way. It's not my back, it is the hip that I've had plastic surgery, physical therapy. I'm in fucking pain.
Plastic surgery.
The hip that I've had physical therapy on in the past, the hip that I've had a problem with the sciatic nerve in the past, and apparently that's what this is because it's in the same place. And basically, Sunday afternoon, I had to just get flat in bed from bending over to stick a flag in the ground. And then I got up and with the help of a cane, I got to the car, took Stace to the airport Monday morning, and then tried to take another day to rest this. And it's getting better because now if I'm completely flat in bed, it doesn't hurt. It's just when I move or sniff or sneeze or cough or laugh or turn in any direction without supporting my weight on something with both of my arms. So otherwise than that, I'm fine. But I'll tell you what's helped. When I was at the store here not long ago, I saw on the shelf the arthritis, the Aleve arthritis stuff, the good stuff for arthritis. And I've got my knees and my shoulder and neck and etc. So I've keep things like that on hand. I'll get this arthritis special strength Aleve, right?
I didn't know they made that. Yeah.
Well, I'm fixing to tell you. So I take that Sunday and I take it again. I've been taking it for the past few times that I've had a situation with the arthritis. And I thought, well, I guess it's just my arthritis is a little worse. It doesn't seem to be working all that great. As I've taken it about 3 or 4 times in the last couple of days, I look at the fucking label more closely, It's not arthritis strength Aleve. It's regular Aleve with an arthritis cap. If you have arthritis, it's easy, because I've been thinking, the shit doesn't work, but boy, it's easy to get the cap off. So anyway, it's in my right hip, up where it meets the lower back, and there's sharp scalding pains that sometimes make me do that every once in a while, but we'll get past that here today. Because, it's not nearly the searing, scalding pain of having to watch bad current wrestling.
That's right, and we did some of that. We have a review of sorts. I don't know how much of Smackdown you watched.
I muddled through the vast majority of it, and it wasn't all horrible, I will admit.
And we also have a lot of big stories, and this is one of those weeks where right after the Experience came out, a whole bunch of stuff happened. And it all happened within like 2 days.
And we still did a 4-hour show on the Experience, and then more shit happens. You got to listen to us constantly. And also all of the shows, whether the Drive Thru or the Experience, because we're just breaking news as fast as it gets fixed now. We break it again.
Well, we're not really breaking any news here this week on the show, but we are talking about...
We're fixing. They break the news, and then we fix it.
Well, we're covering the breakage.
Well, or the damage, as it may be. Go ahead. I'm in pain.
Well, I don't even know where to start.
I'm in pain, but I haven't done my plugs yet. That must be in real bad pain. Just remember, folks, as we've mentioned, the new and improved JimCornette.com debuts Labor Day weekend. If I am mobile on Labor Day weekend and able to start filling merchandise orders, because also the all-new online store Cornette's Collectibles at JimCornette.com will be up at the same time. You can go and peruse everything. What a wonderful, easy shopping experience it will be. And also the next round of cameos will be shot, depending on whether I am too shot to stand or not. They will be on sale on Sunday, August 15th from noon to 2 p.m. Eastern. Get them while they're hot. All that we can sell in 2 hours, and you know how that goes. They go quickly, but we'll stay up. Sunday, August 15th, cameo.com/Jim Cornette, noon to 2 p.m. Eastern, personalized video messages for the people that need a good talking to in your life. Now it's your show.
All right, well, we'll see how long that remains the case. But, Jim, a lot of things happened in the world of professional wrestling in just the past 3 or 4 days as we are recording. I guess if I have to pick one, we won't start with Smackdown. But there have been a couple of releases and one that people are anticipating now. Let's talk about the one that came first, which was Bray Wyatt being released.
Well, the crispy critter of Canyon Creek has been future endeavored. After you burn a guy alive and then resurrect him and then beat him, what else can you do with him? You've set the guy on fire on television. When I heard this, and a lot of people are speculating that Nick Khan and his cohorts in the business end have more pull than ever before. Well, they ain't speculating. That's the truth. Vince has even said it or admitted to it. And they want to balance the budgets and everything. But if Bray Wyatt, and I'm not saying this bad about the person behind Bray Wyatt, but if Bray Wyatt was still of any value to them that they thought, and they see the merchandise numbers, everybody was going crazy about how much merchandise he sold. They see the merchandise numbers. They're not going to release a guy at that level unless they feel that there's no more they can do with him and it ain't performing like it used to. And that's not necessarily Bray Wyatt's fault. Or what is his real name? He's one of the
Wyndham Rotunda. Okay.
Well, there you go. I was about to say he's one of the Wyndham/Rotunda family, and that's his name.
Yeah, exactly.
So he can't be Bray Wyatt anywhere else. But the point is, they have taken this guy because he got over on his own with his spooky, swamp-dwelling, cultish leader family of, deliverance misfits. gimmick that he had, which sounded kind of cool. That's back before we were watching all this shit, right? That was several years ago. And people apparently liked it. So then they go further and further with the supernatural and teleportation and the fucking all the shit that we've talked about over the past, 2 years that we've seen out of it. It went so far. You couldn't do anything else with this. Literally, they burned him alive in the middle of the ring, allegedly, to ashes. So
usually that person has a job for life.
But they diminished their own talent, and now that he's not worth, apparently, to them what they feel that they've got in it, or they're paying him, or there's nothing else left to do, then they release him. So they're handing him to AEW, who of course will pick him up because you've mentioned the unlimited father fund. But he can't be Bray Wyatt. He's still a talented guy under there somewhere, underneath all the bullshit that we've hated over the last 2 years. The question is, can he be anything close to what people actually liked that's not copyrighted by the WWE? And if he can't, if he does something completely different, what would he be? And that's an unknown commodity. This is almost like Mark Marrow switching from Johnny B. Bad to what? That's all he's been. I mean, I'm not comparing the level of talent, but I'm just saying what else but a spooky guy can he be?
Well, first of all, let's just say we don't know, and the difference between him and Mark Marrow, no disrespect to Mark Marrow in this manner, but I think Bray Wyatt's shown, or Wyndham Rotunda, I guess we should call him, has shown himself to be, whether I like his stuff or not, a creative guy. And again, he went from the swamp-dwelling weirdo with friends to this Fiend character. I'm not a fan of the Fiend, the early stuff. I did watch some of that. The stuff with him and Bryan Danielson early on, I liked a lot of that. This stuff I didn't, but he's creative.
Well, I could see him
coming up with a whole new thing. I could see him doing it.
I wonder how much of the really egregiously stupid, supernatural, goofy videos, teleportation, talking puppet, I wonder how much of that was him and how much the creative team took something that he said and just ran completely amok with it.
Well, let me ask you this, and I'll go back to the AEW question you asked before in a moment, but I did see several people bring this up, and I thought to myself, that's a really interesting point. I hadn't thought of it. Any problem with the idea you released the guy, but you already gave his gimmick to Alexa Bliss? Like, they literally just handed his entire gimmick to her.
Well, except for the fact that she's not, close to 300 pounds and hairy and need of manscaping.
That wasn't the gimmick. That was the man behind the gimmick.
But yeah, I mean, obviously, the AEW fans will just go berserk over the idea that he is coming to AEW whenever they announce that, because where else is he going to go?
Have you seen what people have been kind of speculating about?
No.
And again, speculation, and it's natural to speculate on this, that he may be someone that would come in to be with the Dark Order. Because, of course, Luke Harper was his guy, Brody Lee. There's a connection there. And that's a way, if you wanted to get the Dark Order to be evil again and get him away from being the goofy, friendly guys. They will
not fucking give up on the Dark Order.
Never. It's a Young Bucks gimmick. They'll never give up on it.
It will never be over until the business is broken and bleeding. It will never be. It couldn't put the Dark Order down with a steel-toed boot, baby. Couldn't put them out with a steel-toed boot. Dark Order walking through the airport, people coming up to him saying, "Go to the hospital, honey. Go to the hospital, baby. No gimmick can take this much of a beat." And I said, I would not give the fans the damn satisfaction. Anyway, once again, yeah, I can see them actually doing that. And again, you take a multi-million-dollar fucking superstar mainstream talent and stick them amidst guys with numbers in Roman numerals written on their fucking faces or chests, and interchangeable masks over their faces, and or the ones that aren't wearing masks, some of them need to. Plus Little Brutus. Why would you do that? Except to, once again, because you're not going to give up on a shitty outlaw gimmick and the man in control has no knowledge. Otherwise than that, but so I can believe they do it, but it would be insane.
He's a great promo. He could talk in and out of gimmick. He could talk. There's something to be done with that. In the ring, I don't know.
With you in your squeaky chair, there is. Yes, you can.
Thank you.
Well, no, I mean, my God, just in the ring. Just because Bray Wyatt has been in the ring with the biggest stars in the business, he would automatically be much more experienced and capable as an in-ring talent than most of the slapped together guys on half of their roster. But once again, just who will he be and what will he come off as? What would his name be? This will be interesting. And that's the thing. I'm sure they'll get, at this point, AEW is guaranteed some level of viewership by the WWE fans who want to see the train go off the fucking trestle. With how are they going to take our favorites? The AEW fans will say, oh, we're going to take the WWE guys and use them better than they have been before. The WWE fans might be, okay, now that they've left, what are AEW going to do with these guys to bury them and make them look like idiots? So there could be a level of, I guess, morbidity watching.
I think it's a good move.
Pleasure for these guys.
I think I shouldn't say I think it's a good move.
I'm not saying it's not a good move.
I think that for AEW, at a time where Vince and the WWE are having a tougher time than ever before creating stars, to take the stars that they're letting go. And Bray Wyatt's a pretty significant one. I think Bray Wyatt's bigger than Aleister Black, and he's bigger than Andrade. I mean, he's a big guy. All of a sudden, I mean, not that one of these guys turns the table or anything, but all of a sudden you have a collection of these guys who were the last guys that were stars on the other TV, and the other channels can't make the stars. I mean, it's kind of, without Vince losing like he was to WCW and with no fear of that in the immediate future due to the financials, it's very similar to the way things started playing out in 96.
Well, I don't know. Because, in 96, there was not only a great collection of underneath talent, 96, 97, a great collection of underneath talent waiting to get out from underneath the Nashes and the Halls and that era of WWF guys. But there were more stars in general, and there were more viewers to steal. So we can't expect the WWE to keep. When we went through their roster, what was it? Somebody counted. We said, we're not going to count all these, but somebody counted there was 200 and something talents on their roster. So at some point, they got to get rid of some of these people. Now, the question is whether they should just get rid of the bottom fucking 50 that we've never even heard of, and save the same amount of money as Strowman, Wyatt, and a couple of others that we have heard of. But now, then again, AEW is reacting by signing up whoever that they let go. WCW was signing up people that could get away. It was, it was a little different.
That's true.
And also,
and we're assuming, by the way, that they were signing Bray Wyatt. Again, we don't know that is going to happen.
No, he's going to start hosting a cooking show. As a matter of fact, Hotchkiss Featherbottom has already got a spot open for him as co-host of the Velvet Colander. So anyway, but there's no coherent plan to this shopping trip that AEW has been on. Their first talent roster that they put together and debuted with was incoherent because it was 3 or 4 different sections of the EVPs giving all their friends a job that they were enamored of their goofy gimmicks that nobody had ever seen for good reason, plus a couple of stars. Then over a period of time, they started, when they said they were not going to be the place where all the WWE cast-offs and retreads came, like every place else has been, and that held true until there were cast-offs and retreads available, and those started filtering in. And then, at least we started seeing less of, Sonny Kiss, the legless boy, and JoJo, the dog-faced guy. But because now they've actually got some semblance of talent.
Yeah, give them credit. You did say early on, I hope they get rid of all these people once they start getting talent, and they actually have. They actually have.
Well, but we don't know that they've gotten rid of anybody. I think everybody still seems to be getting paid.
That's true.
And they get paid to sit in the crowd during the COVID era, and they have 15 matches on their YouTube show. So I'm not sure they got rid of him. At least we don't have to look at him on television. But now, these are high-priced fucking guys that they are going on a shopping spree for with, again, no coherent plan. It's not who do we want to work with this guy, and it's who are they going to release, and we can snatch them up and make a big deal out of it. And that's only going to go so far, because then you've got let's think about this, and especially with some of the people we've yet to talk about. But if you've just got CM Punk, Bryan Danielson, Adam Cole we'll mention in a minute, Ric Flair, they do a big show, Mark Henry, they have been signing, who am I forgetting of the high-priced guys that they've just
Christian Cage.
Christian Cage. I won't say he necessarily raked him across the coals financially, but I'm sure he's getting a fair deal.
I would think so.
It wasn't like we want to pick these guys and put them together. It's like all of these guys cost a lot of money, and we'll figure out something to do with them. That may very well be a Nick Khan strategy. We don't want these guys, or we don't want these guys at this price, so let's fucking stock their shelf. Vince teased it on that conference call. And everybody thought, oh, Vince isn't taking this seriously. This has to have been discussed for him to say when they talked about spending, and they're on a spending spree in AEW for talent. Maybe we can help them out with some more of that. 48 hours later, Bray Wyatt, or 24, Bray Wyatt's released, followed by so.
But the interesting thing is Tony Khan in terms of strategy, and I'm not saying there is or isn't a strategy. Like you said, it just so happens he's gobbling up a lot of the guys that become free. We don't know about anything else, but right now, that's what it is, and a lot of that's the realities of modern wrestling. You're under contract to one company or another, or a smaller company that you can immediately get out of that contract if you had a good lawyer like Stephen Pinu. But Tony Khan can kind of execute the Vince McMahon strategy of '84 with no budget. Just sign everyone. Everyone. Get everyone a job. Get everyone on the roster. Keep doing it. Why is he doing this? How can he afford it? Why is Mr. Wrestling 2 wrestling for Vince? Because he was there and he was available. Tony could do that. Tony could sign all these guys and not even worry about the budget. Vince, more than ever, has to worry about the budget.
I agree with you, because as long as Daddy is giving his inheritance this early, they can spend any amount of money, but then what do you do with everybody? And then where does the line of demarcation come between this new revolutionary company with all these fresh faces and this new company on an established network with a bunch of familiar faces under other names?
Yeah, you should take some of that money and start another promotion and hire someone else to run it and put half the talent there, because then he would have a way to do it. Because this is a lot of guys, even with 2 YouTube shows and a Friday night show coming. But Jim, let's move on to another big name. This one surprised some people, other people not surprised. The WWE came to terms on releasing Ric Flair.
And I don't even remember what show we talked about this on. It was earlier in the year, or maybe late last year, whenever that deal with him and Charlotte and Lacey Evans was going on.
I think that was earlier this year. I think that was the beginning of this year.
Yeah, it was sometime. Well, it just time flies when I'm sitting here, the closest thing to laying down as possible. Remember, Mark Henry leaves after being browbeaten with no rebuttal and talked to like a piece of shit by Randy Orton on television. And of course, Mark said he asked, and I don't dispute this, that he had wanted more of a position in the company. I don't know if he would be on the creative team or work in the fucking marketing office. He said he wanted an office position, but he wanted more to do with something, probably talent recruitment and shit. And he didn't get what he wanted, so he left. But also, you can't mean to tell me that it didn't mean something that the last time, that this was before he was leaving, the last time he's seen on Raw, he's talked to like a 400-pound piece of shit on a scooter instead of a legend.
Hey, can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
What do these 6 people have in common? Bray Wyatt, Ric Flair, Christian, Big Show, Mark Henry, and Matt Hardy.
Well, I don't know where you're going with it, so I'll just ask you what.
All 6 of them, their final appearance was them getting attacked either physically or verbally by Randy Orton.
Well, that's interesting. I was just going for the general WWF burying legends, but it's specific Orton. Guy, it's Orton.
Who's he working with now?
Well, yeah, that's the thing. We laughed about Big Show, and then the whole thing with Flair, we were talking, why are they making Ric Flair look like this? At this point, it's not going to draw any ratings. It's not going to make any money. Flair didn't like it. It's come out from his own lips. He didn't like this. It wasn't due to Lacey Evans. It was just a stupid thing for an icon like Ric Flair to be doing or have him doing. And he wasn't in favor of it. And so he asked for his release. And I mean, I guess when he heard that, fuck, this billionaire's kid is such a WCW 90s fan that he'll book Juventud Guerrera, he'll probably pay me $10 million.
They know each other already. Because Ric Flair did an interview, it may have been earlier this year, it may have been last year, I don't remember, but I read an interview where he said, oh yeah, Tony Khan's one of my best friends, and he respects me enough to know that I will never leave WWE, so he's never even made me an offer.
Well, there you go.
Best friends.
And again, Rick is a very loyal guy. He's been too loyal over the years and too compliant. It's been talked about when he was world champion, he did jobs for every fucking body, and he's put up with all the shit that they buried him in the desert, for fuck's sake. And sometimes it just, he gets in his, it's fucking too much. Like when he had the blow up with fucking Bischoff, it was just too fucking much. And probably he's been festering over why would they treat him that way and make him look like that on Raw. I can't even remember the specifics of one foot in front of the other, but we talked about why would you leave Rick standing there like just an idiot? A Ric Flair so he's been loyal to the WWF for quite some time, and his daughter's huge there, but goddamn. We just did answered a question, and it was a clip on YouTube about civilians outside the wrestling business not knowing how to speak to wrestlers, and it's not as pronounced with the modern generation of wrestlers because they don't know how to speak to wrestlers, but it's pronounced with the folks from Ric Flair's generation or even Big Show's generation or even Mark Henry's generation. And a lot of these guys just, okay, well, fuck this guy, even if it's a clown show. Fuck. I'll get money for easier shit and be treated nicer. So I don't know why that they couldn't see that. The WWE couldn't see, hey, maybe we better not just make all these guys look like complete assholes all the time. Because they might want to fucking leave.
They spend so much time trying to get guys for years to sign those legacy deals, which were bullshit. Really gave you nothing. And now there's actually a place where some of these legends could go and make money and do stuff and maybe even be on TV. They're leaving.
Yeah, maybe even be on TV. Some of them we never see on TV, but they might be on TV, some of them in AEW. But that's the thing is that it's...
They could reunite the Four Horsemen if they have Flair.
Good Lord. And then
on TBS or on TNT. Well, on TBS, actually.
On
yeah.
TBS.
Yeah.
But actually, they'd probably put that on YouTube, on Dark or whatever.
That's right.
But anyway, that's, it's not hard to see that the one mistake the WWE may have made is just treating a lot of these guys goofy because the creative team, well, it goes back to not knowing how to talk to. I bet you a lot of the people on the modern WWE creative team think that guys of the era of the Flairs or the fucking whoever legends that we're talking about think just as willy-nilly of the business, and they're being asked to do stuff or read lines or memorize scripts or whatever, just like the modern guys do. And it will inflame, sometimes infuriate, or definitely fester with those guys when they're treated like some fucking mooch coming up to them with a script, and here what you're going to be secretly the father of your own baby. What? Yes, it's a great idea, and here's all the script, and they're going to fuck you. I'll figure out some other way to somebody else to pay me to just be me.
Let me ask you this. Ric Flair, we presume, is going to sign with AEW. Tony Khan would be crazy not to want him. Flair would be crazy not to do it. Now there's just
crazy for trying and crazy for lying and crazy for signing you.
Well, as I was saying, Patsy, also on the roster already.
By the way, when I did What Are Words For? When no one listens anymore, words for.
Missing
when I
persons.
did the other day, the son of Dale and Terry Bozzio has tweeted me. Well, he's a drummer and said he got a huge kick out of that. And I responded, I still have my picture sleeve 45 of the single.
I saw that he said he was Terry's son. Did he say Dale too?
Well, I assume that they were a couple, right?
They were, but I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I don't want you to.
Well, I don't know. Trying to impugn this guy's parentage, but it was a big deal to me that these people, their offspring of and their group and everything. Now you've just shit on that.
Well, I don't know. You're making claims that I don't know. I don't know if they are or aren't.
Well,
true.
I don't know. I knew they had the same name. Were they brother and sister? In which case, maybe I've slandered this fucking.
Well, no,
guy.
They were married, but then they weren't. So you don't know based on his age or his. You don't know anything.
Oh well,
actually, you don't know anything about this.
Hey, this may be your show, but you're not allowed to tell me, especially while I'm here on my deathbed, that I don't know anything. God damn it.
Terry Bozzio, wasn't he, he drummed for Zappa, didn't he?
Well, now I'm afraid to say anything.
I'm sure the Zappas will be okay.
That could have been Bozo the Clown for all we know.
All right. It could have been Moon Unit Zappa. But anyway, back to my question, which went completely off the rails. Ric Flair is signed. How did we get going with this? Ric Flair is signed.
I was singing. You want me to sing some more?
No, that's right. Patsy Cline. Ric Flair is, we assume, going to sign with AEW. Andrade El Idolio, or whatever his name is, excuse me, he's now with AEW. What do you think is going to happen with Charlotte?
Well, I would think that she's got some period of time left on her contract, especially the way that they've been using her, and also the way they've been using her. Boy, I even think it would be, unless they do something really fucking stupid, she's on top of everything. I think even Rick would say, honey, stay here. It's still the biggest company and you're one of the top female talents. And she's managed to, I mean, I haven't seen them have her do anything really stupid besides that thing with, what was her, Lena Horne? What was her name?
Lena Horne?
No, the goddamn, Jesus, I've lost the girl's name.
Lacey Evans?
Lacey Evans, yes.
Lena Horne?
I don't know. I mean, don't make me laugh. Point is, Charlotte hadn't been in too much stupid shit. I don't know. I wouldn't be fucking with that spot if I were her, but nevertheless.
Well, with Ric Flair potentially going to AEW, he'll be hanging out a lot more, you would think, spending time a lot more with his good friend, his best friend, Tony Khan, who, from what I understand, loves statistics, but I don't know for sure if he is in fact a stat hero.
Well, I think he's a stat villain, probably, the way they do their statistics. But folks, did you know, Brian, did you have any idea that 85% of people who play daily fantasy sports lose?
85%?
Did you know that?
Wow.
Yes, and 5% have to change their name and move to an island in the Caribbean.
That sounds
But is
right.
it really that surprising? The game is rigged against you. You're playing against thousands of other lineups, not to mention experts who have more tools and more time. You don't stand a chance. Brian, a little flunky like you, doesn't stand a chance unless you've got backup. And right now, we're introducing Stat Hero. It's the first ever daily fantasy sports book that puts the player, you little weasel,
Me?
in control and winning within reach. Here's how it works. Yes, here's exactly how I'm going to tell you how it works. Stat Hero shows you their lineups and dares you to beat them. It's you versus the house in a head-to-head fantasy matchup. It's like they're giving you a club, too. You've got an extra help. You name your stakes, winner take all. You've got the advantage. Stat Hero showing you their lineups ahead of time. From what I understand, nobody else does that. So you're in control. Stat Hero is DFS, the way it was meant to be, one-on-one. Play Stat Hero now and change the odds. And if you'd like to do that thing, daily fantasy sports, that thing, go to stathero.com/JCE. Sign up for free, and right now you get 3 times back on your first play. They're giving you a 300% match, which apparently is completely unheard of in polite society. Go to stathero.com/JCE, stathero.com/JCE, and play your daily fantasy sportsbook games and be one of the 15% that don't lose, or one of the 5% that move to a Caribbean island because you own it. Yeah. Stop wheezing and your chair is squeaking.
All right, well, let's move on with the show.
Pain over here.
I am sorry about that. Any better from when we started?
Because it's closer to the end, so yes.
Okay, well, speaking of closer to the end.
That's like sex with my ex-wife.
Speaking of closer to the end, it turns out that we may be closer to the end of Adam Cole's days as a wrestler under the WWE banner. Of course, longtime NXT regular. He's done everything in NXT.
Did you say he was a regular?
I said he was a regular.
Wait a minute. You mean he's irregular? What does he have, Crohn's disease?
Oh, boy. Well, anyway, he's been in NXT for a very long time. He's done everything there. And now word has come out that his contract is about to expire. No one's saying, and he's ready to renew. So, of course, seeing that his girlfriend, I don't know if she's a fiance or just a girlfriend, I forget, but Britt Baker in AEW.
I believe that, didn't we see pictures of her nuptials at one point
I don't know. Well, congratulations.
That was a mistake. That was on her Christmas card, and the photographer didn't notice when they sent out the pictures of her nuptials. But I think they got married.
I don't know.
At some point, I don't know.
Well, either way, his significant other is working in AEW. A lot of his friends from Ring of Honor and beyond, from Pro Wrestling Guerrilla and beyond, they're in AEW. A lot of people think Adam Cole is certainly going to be headed there. What are your thoughts about the news that Adam Cole's about to have his contract come up?
Well, now the scuttlebutt that I heard was that his contract did expire in July, but he agreed to an extension I guess finish this thing with O'Reilly, which, because they're longtime close personal friends, as Mean Gene would say. So his extension would be coming up very shortly, and you know that he can still re-sign, or he could still not sign. And therein lies why he's got the marketing leverage, apparently. But from what I understand, also a lot of people saying it, that the WWE office was surprised that his contract was ending this summer. They thought it was the end of the year, and someone tied that to potentially being one of the reasons behind Canyon Seaman's departure, the illegitimate nephew of Seaman Art Thomas. So, I mean, it's happened before. talent relations fuck up of some description. Wait a minute. What do you mean? He's the champion and his contract expires tomorrow or whatever. That may have been something, but yeah, it's not looking good. Let me say this. It wouldn't be looking good that he's going to stay, except that, goddamn, he's almost got him over a barrel now if they want to keep him at all. But the question is, how much do they want to keep him if they've just, said goodbye to some of these other high-priced guys, even though Cole can outperform all of them.
Yeah, why would he stay?
And again, as you mentioned, he's been in NXT since he's been there. And it's not like they've, broken their necks to bring him up to the main roster when his group was dominating the place and they were the best thing on the show and sometimes the only thing worth watching. And he's the star of that group. And he's got everything except size. He can talk, he can work, he looks fantastic. He's got all of the tools. He's got the psychology. He's got the experience. He can have a great match, and he can get shit over too, angles, etc. So, jealously, I wish they would try to back the Brinks truck up to keep him, so we would continue seeing him work with people that are going to take this shit. Yeah, even Harley back there just went. I don't know what in the world it would look like if Adam Cole ended up in AEW playing with the children. It would bring out all of the worst instincts he might have and nullify most of his professionalism.
Well, those are all his friends, and he was on their stupid little YouTube show years before he went to, or right before he went to NXT, actually. So he's going to do all that stuff, but he's never going to get to the main roster under Vince, and he's never going to be pushed under Vince. He can go make a lot of money there, be around his significant other, be around his friends, and who knows what AEW is going to look like in the next few months. Maybe we get Bryan Danielson versus Adam Cole. Maybe CM Punk versus Adam Cole. I'd like to see Adam Page versus Adam Cole. I mean, there's a lot of interesting matches. All of a sudden, assuming AEW signs all these guys that everyone's assuming they're going to sign, there's going to be a lot of interesting top-level talent there that it could change things. It could change the way guys are used and what they're doing because of who's there.
Okay, then do you think that finally Tony Khan is going to find the combination to the safe where his balls are kept and then say, okay, we've got real talent now, Pinocchio. Do we diminish or lessen the exposure of or outright send packing some of the dreck that we've had that got in the way of this show, which is what, honestly, a lot of their fans are fans of the dreck. Their fans literally like the dreck more than some of the meager amounts of good shit that they actually do that's professionally done and perpetrated the right way. So do they get rid of all the dreck that their fans like because it's a Monty Python show to focus on the real talent, or do they try to bring the real talent down to the level of the dreck?
Well, we haven't seen signs of people being cut with very few exceptions. So we don't know. I think Tony Khan in the past said he was worried about cutting guys during the pandemic because what are they going to do? And I thought that was kind of noble, but I don't want to say we're after the pandemic because there's still a lot of things happening, but
we're after the first pandemic, and right in front of the second one, because now we actually have a vaccine that the Trump suckers won't take. So the 40% of people that put us in that fucking position are going to be the 40% of the people that allow us never to get rid of the fucking COVID.
So you mean to tell me if that was his thought then, now he's going to start cutting people? Where are they going to go work? Who are they going to go work for? Even Impact, who they have a working agreement with, they can only use so many people. New Japan can only use so many people. It'll be interesting, and I also think he likes a lot of these guys personally, and that makes it tough to get rid of them. It's hard sometimes for people who have never been a boss to be in that position, and you find that you like a lot of the people that are working for you, but eventually you have to make some changes, and it's hard, and not everyone's cut out for it. We'll see how Tony Khan handles it.
You just described, although this is on a much larger scale, but you just described Kerry Silken, the kindly owner of Ring of Honor, who after a number of years looked around and finally came to the realization, what am I running here? Make-A-Wish? And at some point, yes, you've sometimes because you're running a business, you have to fire personal friends, which is one of the reasons Vince McMahon has been successful is because he'll fire anybody. He's never actually fired a family member. He's run a couple off, but he'll fire anybody else and still be gobsmacked when they're unhappy with him. And, he'll wonder why. Well, it was just business. Meanwhile, Tony Khan is putting every goddamn outlaw mud show goof's kids through college because he can't not pay anybody to hang around with him.
Yeah, no one's going to talk shit either if they're still under contract.
Exactly.
There was a guy I knew, he passed away. Some people, if you're out there listening from the music industry, Mike Lefner, fascinating guy, interesting guy, did some work for WWE. Did you ever meet Mike Lefner, or were you already gone from WWE?
I do not remember. It seems like I would remember that name. Lefner?
Well, he was a New York institution in the music industry, worked at the Fillmore East as a doorman, and then got in the door with the record companies, did lots of different things, promotion. He was in the Blues Brothers. He played the record executive. We tried to sign them at the end. But one of the stories about him that you would always hear from people is he always had a job. Because you realize if you paid him, he would shut up and stop running his mouth about you. So people would hire him so he would stop ripping them, and then that kept going on and on and on. I did hear that from several people.
See, people think that that's what I've been doing. But then the problem is I never accept any of the jobs. I just keep ripping because I don't care, and I just do this for fun.
But I think Adam Cole's going to end up there. I think it's a no-brainer for him. Unless WWE says, hey, we're going to give you all this money and guarantee it. We're not going to cut you like everyone else you saw us do that to.
Yeah.
And you can do what you want. And you can stay on NXT because you know what Vince is going to do to you. But they're not going to do that. And why would he want that? He's done it. He's done it.
You know what? This is the perfect environment for Sid to come along and ask for softball season off. This time he'd get it.
The Panama Sunrise. Where's he from?
Panama City, Florida.
How far is that from Jacksonville?
Well, here's the thing. I don't know if that's his if I met him, he's fucking living in New Jersey, right? Or Pennsylvania. I don't know if that's his legitimate hometown. That's his gimmick hometown. The Abdullah the Butcher wasn't from the Sudan either, although he might be from Panama City. Cole, not Abdullah.
Right.
But there's no place far from fucking Jacksonville these days with airplanes and modern transportation.
Here's a question for you. With AEW having all this talent, and they've been bringing in a lot of talent, and now they're also starting to use some talent from New Japan, for instance. Do you have one roster with the introduction of the Friday show for everything, or do you try to split it up a little bit?
Oh, good God, no. Because then, those fucking happy horseshit fans, if they split their rosters into two, then they'd have double champions for everything like the guys on the other channel have. They've got triple champions and then champions for the other countries. No way. And by the way, this Friday on The Experience, we're going to go down the AEW roster and separate the wheat from the chaff as we have with the WWE roster. Or this Saturday, I should say, not Friday. But no, goddamn, if you've got this much momentum and you've got a new show debuting and you've got these big events that they better, even though they're, well, now these live events, are they all television tapings also, or are some of them just house shows? The tennis stadium, are they doing TV there?
I believe so. I think the only house shows, there've only been a couple of house shows. There was one in Jacksonville that they taped, but they didn't air it.
Okay, but the point is, basically with all of these new mega names coming from the WWE and et cetera, make you the best roster you can make out of everybody you've got, eliminate a lot of the crap that they end up sticking on YouTube to begin with, and concentrate on those guys. Don't split your talent now to where they're only going to be on this TV show or that TV show. What the fuck? You can you can actually, not only should they don't feature all the talent they have now that's worth featuring, because everything has to go 25 fucking minutes. When you get these kids in the ring, they can't stop playing. They can't have a 5-minute match to give a guy a win and let him say something and not be attacked or kidnapped or what, a shot into space or whatever. They ought to concentrate on using all the big top talent they've got now. And maybe they can have some fucking shorter segments on their 2-hour show so you could get more people exposed and you wouldn't have those long marathons. And on the hour show, recap what went on the 2-hour show, which is your mothership. It's your main program, and feature some of the new talent newer talent that you're featuring on top and trying to get over. And you would have plenty of time. They keep saying, oh, we've only got 2 hours. We don't have time to expose all our talent. Yes, you do. If you don't let every single one of them go 20 fucking minutes every goddamn time they get out there. Their girls' matches eat up 15 fucking minutes. It's national TV. Among the many other things that Vince has lost track of that he used to teach people, I already knew this because it was beaten into me from the territories. Every time you get a promo, you know how much 2 minutes of TV in fucking New Orleans costs? But it was beaten into everybody's heads. Hey, hit your times. You know how lucky you are to be given this time. 2 minutes to talk on national TV, 5 minutes to have a match on national TV. Every minute counts. It's $100,000 for 30 seconds on his fucking network or whatever. So don't go over and don't drone on and don't fucking wear out your welcome. Of course, sometimes guys going the amount of time they were told to still wore out their welcome. But not usually on television. Most of the time it was either on pay-per-view or fucking in house shows. Nevertheless, just streamline this shit and get your top guys. And I saw something about this. They said they actually have, somebody on Twitter or the internet said this, that they actually have somebody going by these minute by minute or quarter hour ratings, and the people that they feature most on the show are the people that have gotten the biggest quarter hour ratings in the past. God damn, that's fucking ludicrous. Don't you understand that you are writing the song that plays on the radio? You're going to tell the people what they fucking like based on how you feature these people. Of course, if you've got the ingredients of a tasty cake out there being exposed individually, most people are going to take a fucking cheeseburger over sugar. But when you put it all together by that measure and that criteria, almost none of the stars who became stars in wrestling would ever have gotten over, because you'd just be seeing the same fucking people most all the time. And in some cases, because of their weird audience, that's probably why we see Pockets all the time, because they think that his past quarter hours translate to, this is going to mean business for us.
That's exactly why. That and the merch sales.
You take a team like FTR, when you signed them, they were the best tag team in the world, not after they've been beaten and devalued and demoralized by the Young Bucks. But you take them, and the first time you put them on television, they're not going to get a big quarter hour because it's not a train wreck or a plane crash or a fucking car accident where people are rubbernecking like with Pockets or the Dwarf Dong Sucker or whatever the first couple of times. And you expose FTR by giving them wins and speak and give them credibility, and their quarter hours will increase over time. Not just FTR, but anybody, any talent that's ever been presented in any wrestling promotion. What was Mick Foley's first fucking quarter hour? Whether it be as Cactus Jack in WCW or as Mankind in the WWF or whatever, compared to what they grew into. So they're going by the ratings of the train wreck talent at the expense of building their own, which would increase their audience because somebody else would be being featured instead of the goofballs that a large segment of the wrestling fans don't want to watch this show because of. The point is, you don't worry about what the guy's first or second or third quarter hour rating is. You pay attention to it, and not only that, but also the reactions they get, and also the matches they have, and also the fucking ability they have to integrate with the other people on the roster. You measure that after you've brought them in and given them exposure and gotten them over, as the quote goes. Then if nobody cares, then you've fucking shit the bed. But just to fucking, of course, people are going to watch the dog fucking on the side of the road first thing, because that is visual, right? Oh, look at those dogs fucking on the side of the road. And I've said many times, sooner or later, people get tired of watching them dogs fucking. And then you say, well, shit, I wish I'd have used that time a little bit more judiciously to start something that would have legs. And I'll close with this point. The argument I had with Jim Herd. I said it was Arn Anderson and Sid Vicious, because Herd was all over Sid, all over Sid. I said, you'd rather have Sid Vicious than Arn Anderson, wouldn't you? And he looked at me. So why? I said, well, Sid Vicious will draw you $1 million in one night. And Herd said, well, what's wrong with that? I said, because then people have seen it and they never want to see it again. Arn Anderson will draw you steady money for 10 years. And he couldn't get that. Anyway, that's my closing thought on that matter.
Well, we were talking about Adam Cole to AEW, and you have to wonder if Adam Cole did go there and he was with his friends again. When he ran into the Young Bucks, would he preach the gospel of keeps?
Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it is the Right Reverend Deuteronomy Skaggs with the latest from Keeps. No, the gospel of keeps? It's not gospel, it's proven fact. It is proven fact that many, many men in their lives will experience male pattern baldness. It will happen probably to you at some point, but Keeps offers a simple, stress-free way to keep your hair. There's convenient online doctor consultations, medications delivered straight to your door every 3 months, so you don't even have to leave your home. You know I'm in favor of that. And it's low cost. The treatment started just $10 a month because they offer generic versions of all the finest hair loss products. It's discreet packaging with proven results and more 5-star reviews than any of its competitors. Prevention is the key. We've said before, you can't grow hair on a billiard ball, but you can not only keep what you've got, but re-stimulate some of that recently departed to return and take up residence again. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss now, go to Keeps, KEEPS.com/JCE, and you'll get your first month treatment for free. Keeps.com/JCE to get your first month free. Keeps.com/JCE, and don't blame Keeps for Brian Last's poor transition.
I thought it was a good transition, and don't blame Keeps for anything. They're a wonderful sponsor that
they're blameless.
All of you fans should support immediately. But Jim, speaking of...
And as a matter of fact, 100% of the people who use Keeps do wake up the next day.
Well, that's a good sign. That's a good first step. But Jim, on the topic of sponsors and how to keep sponsors happy, there's been more fallout of the AEW Domino's pizza situation.
Now, see, that would have been a better transition to Keeps, the fallout.
Well, I can't do that before the segment. I had to...
Well, you could have refigured things in your brain there, pal, but go ahead.
Well, there's...
The fallout.
Did you see Jon Moxley apparently did a interview or something? I actually don't know what this is from.
He did an interview that was carried on a variety of web sources, basically telling Domino's, chill the fuck out. You ought to be thankful to have Nick Gage. Nick Gage, that guy could sell you a lot of pizzas.
Well, here's the actual quote.
When you think of appetizing things, you naturally think of the face of Meth Head McGee. Go ahead. What's the actual quote?
Here's the actual quote, and a reminder for anyone who has missed this issue. AEW had a wrestler slicing up another wrestler's head with a pizza cutter at the same time that the picture-in-picture was showing a Domino's pizza being cut with a pizza cutter. Domino's not very happy about this. Obviously, it went viral, brought to their attention, and they reacted as most responsible organizations probably would. Again, their relationship isn't just with AEW, it's with TNT. So that's the big issue. They advertise on a lot of different shows. And Jon Moxley's response was, Domino's needs to chill out. They need to chill. It was a coincidence. Jump on the bandwagon. You don't think Nick Gage could sell some pizzas for you? You don't think the Noid is played out at this point? You're bringing back the Noid? For one, I was actually happy to see the Noid in commercials again after all these years, but whatever. But Jon Moxley, top AEW talent, telling a station sponsor to chill out.
Okay, well, let me just, first of all, there's so much to discuss here. And by the way, if Moxley is so insulted that they would bring the Noid back, the Noid, a fictional character that's not a human being, that was their spokesperson on their commercials in the 2000s until a guy with the last name of Noid, who was mentally ill, thought that they were fucking targeting him personally and went and shot some fucking Domino's pizza people.
I never heard that. Is that true?
That is true.
A guy with his name was Noid?
His name was Noid. Look it up while I'm talking here.
Okay.
The Noid case. So that's why that the Noid wasn't around for a while, but they're bringing it back now. But the point is, Domino's has already experienced a situation with violence of a mentally ill person, and their sponsorships and their commercials. You think they want to encourage fucking Meth Head McGee and his pizza slicer to be cutting people's fucking scalp off on anywhere adjacent to any of their commercials that just feature wholesome steaming pizza, for fuck's sake? So that's one thing. Secondly, what a fucking idiot. This is one of the reasons why, and I saw this and retweeted, hey, Zippy, good job of calming the sponsors down there, pal. This is normal, sane people that don't live in this hardcore wrestling bubble of these people would be shocked and amazed by this, and not in a good way. And this shows why that, because Domino's is the big time, you couldn't cut it in the big time, Zippy, Dean Ambrose, Jon Moxley, whatever your name is. And this is the kind of shit that, can you imagine if this had been the WWE, there wouldn't have been a pizza cutter. But if a sponsor got upset at anything that happened on a WWE program and any of the WWE talent went on in any public forum and said, chill out and get over it, you don't think this wouldn't be better than what you're doing already? Vince would personally go and pick them up and pile drive them. This is why that this fucking Moxley clown couldn't exist in that atmosphere. And it wasn't because they were stifling his creativity. It's because he's garbage in, garbage out. He's a garbage wrestler, and they couldn't break him of it. Look how he fangirled over, as the kids say, over this fucking bank-addicted drug robber on Dark Side of the Ring. Remember when we said, what the fuck? He was literally this guy's cheerleader, Moxley was. He loves this fucking clown. And that's wrestling to him, and that's a wrestler to him. And that's why that, I guess, he just couldn't fit in with polite society, Moxley, because he garbage in, garbage out. He started out as a garbage wrestler, and that's mentally where he stayed, even though he got a run at the big time. And they could take the boy out of the garbage, but they couldn't take the garbage out of the boy. And it's embarrassing to hear him. If you're a WWE fan and you knew Dean Ambrose, and so you see the guy that used to be Dean Ambrose talking about, wow, this guy's great, he's this and that, and Nick fucking Gage, man. And then you look at the actual meth head McGee, Nick Gage, and you see the fucking lack of teeth, the brain damage, the drug abuse, the scars from wading in broken glass in front of his scum-sucking mutant friends and fans. And you go, wait, what the and I'm just, I can't believe that there was anybody making any phone calls upset from a sponsor standpoint at anything that TNT or AEW showed on their network or their program, and Tony Khan would allow one of his guys to tell him to chill the fuck out. You gotta be, this guy is a complete fucking moron. I'm not talking about Tony Khan now. Although if the shoe fits, as Dennis Condrey would say, put that motherfucker on and start walking. But I'm talking about Jon Moxley as a complete fucking moron.
All right. Well, that covered that topic, the Domino's pizza controversy. Any other?
But not really. Have you heard there's more controversy now about the Domino's pizza issue? The Domino's pizza incident, Pizzagate. This is the real Pizzagate, not the pedophile ring in the basement. Now have you heard what the AEW faithful, Brian, are blaming the controversy on?
The pizza. What pizza controversy? That Domino's was upset?
They're blaming it. Yeah, they're blaming it. They said the WWE is the ones who called Domino's and said, well, you ought to get hot about this. And the WWE called people and websites and outlets and said, you ought to write about this. Well, I can imagine that they would have. I certainly would have told them to do that. I can see Vince telling them to do that. But the actual fucking stooge off came instantly in live real time when they trended, Domino's trended on Twitter while it was happening because everybody was so gobsmacked, couldn't believe what they were fucking looking at. Domino's was already aware and was already making these phone calls, and it was already going to get out. And whether or not the WWE anyone in that organization encouraged everybody they know to write about it because it was happening, I can believe that. It was still fucking happening. But they have now, the WWE's so scared of AEW that they've got to call and stooge them. No, they got stooged on live national television. The fuck? If somebody in your genre of programming trying to compete with you does something incredibly stupid and gets heat with their sponsors and vis-a-vis by their network, aren't you going to do everything you can to point that out to everybody you talk to the next day? Hey, guess what they did? Boy, you ought to check into this. Of course you would. Because it's fucking stupid. They shot themselves in the foot. And it's not like that they hired a professional wrestler, a star, a professional performer who accidentally made a mistake. They knew they were getting garbage in, garbage out. They knew what they were getting. A fucking human freak show that appeals to other people that want to see a human freak show, torture porn, and they wanted to get people talking by, oh, look how outrageous this guy is. He's the guy that bites the head off the chickens at the county fair. That's going to get people. Well, it certainly got people talking. And it didn't take him 15 minutes of being even old meth head McGee, the bank addicted drug robber, didn't he even tweet and say, well, I guess I'm just not suitable for television? I saw something. I don't know if he can spell the word suitable. I think it was something like, I guess I'm just too much for TV. Yeah, you're too much for fucking most things.
All right. Well, that was
alrighty then.
Domino Pizzagate. Let's move on with the show. And Jim, I guess let's get
and one more thing before I go.
Yeah.
On the subject of sponsorship. Did you see again? The AEW fans took this and run with it. Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer said, hey, if Domino's doesn't want to sponsor AEW, we will. God. I can see, and then the AEW fans who have never drunk Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer, because let's face it, unless you're watching a goddamn dog fight in a barn, you don't drink Pabst Blue Ribbon Beer anymore, do you? I didn't know it was still manufactured.
I actually used to get into a lot of fights with my friends in Brooklyn about this, because whenever we were out, they would always get PBR, and I would say, that shit's disgusting. How could you drink that? Even if you want to drink a Miller High Life. A Miller High Life, excuse me. That's all right. But don't drink PBR. PBR is, the only reason it's acceptable to people is because it's cheap. It's the worst beer of all the beers. It's horrible.
Actually, have you ever had Schaefer beer?
I have. Not good.
Well, the reason I mentioned Schaefer was because I don't drink beer, but Norman Frederick Charles III, the Royal Kangaroo, in 1983, when I managed him in Georgia, he's, all right, Schaefer beer, mate, $1.99 a six-pack, can't beat it. But anyway.
That's PBR to the Brooklyn kids.
Or it's not professional bull riding either. But the point is, all these AEW, well, that's right. They thought it was a real beer company, like a Miller or fucking Budweiser or what, a Pabst Blue Ribbon. The beer companies are standing by waiting to sponsor. Pabst Blue Ribbon would take a commercial shown on a sheet on the side of a garage. So I just wanted to mention that the beer connoisseurs are definitely not watching AEW.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't even know if they have it in their budget to advertise AEW PBR, by the way. I don't know. But let's move past Domino's Pizzagate and move on here with the show. Jim, let's get all the pain out of the way. Smackdown. We agreed that we were going to watch it.
Ooh.
You said we would zip through it. I ended up watching more than I thought I would.
I did too.
But let's talk a little bit about Smackdown that aired this past Friday, which would have been, looking at my calendar.
July 30th.
July 30th, that's right.
That's right. I keep up on these things. They've formatted this show well at the start, especially Cena's entrance at the top. Blew the roof off the building. He comes out with energy, enthusiasm. He acts like a superstar. He's a movie star. He's majorly over. That's something you can't replicate and something the WWE hasn't been able to replicate here lately. I like the way that they, for the television viewer, and that's what they're doing it for, I like the way they have the talent come out and do the entrance, and then they show the couple of minute history packages to bring people up to date. It's got to be awkward as fuck because they're on live TV, for the talent to stand in the ring and wave at everybody while that, video is playing, because even though obviously the talent comes out and then they cut the lights down and they go to the video for the live event, it's just like when you come out with that emotion and energy and you want to cut a promo, but you got to stand there and watch that video package, it's hard on the talent. But you couldn't see this with John because he's fucking brilliant. As soon as they came back and they showed last week his return challenging Reigns, Heyman had interrupted him last week and was great and dooted Cena's music.
That's not Cena's music. I don't know what you just did.
Well, whatever. Heyman was dooting it. Reigns had blistered Cena last week for not changing his gimmick. It was like the missionary position. It just gets old after a while. And he turned down the challenge and accepted Finn Balor's challenge. That's what Reigns did last week. So anyway, Cena does his promo. I mean, it's fucking great. He's not acting. He's being him. He's got great delivery. He's got great vocabulary. He's witty. It seems natural. Obviously, he's gone over this material and added his own and made it his own, telling a story, but it's just so heads and shoulders above what most people are doing these days. And his story was he didn't change because it's him. And he gave the great analogies. Would you want, what'd he say, Stone Cold Steve Austin to come out as freeze-fried, fucking Steve Houston or whatever? He fired the crowd up. It was a great performance. It's worth whatever they're paying John Cena right now for John Cena to be on any of their shows anywhere. And he pretty much roasted Roman Reigns. And I'm thinking, okay, this is really good way to open. And then here, all of a sudden, here comes, apparently now it's homeless Corbin. And he comes in and he's like, we got to talk, John. And Cena was funny when he said, first of all, who are you? And then I think the way he delivered it was hilarious, but it's, again, he says he watches the show and he loves the WWE. He should know, but then he realized it with Baron Corbin, so he turned it around and made it right. That's you, Baron Corbin? Because he didn't recognize him. And Corbin tells the story of sorrow and woe that would bring a tear to a glass eye about how he's, bankrupt and penniless and everything's gone wrong. And they made jokes about his dick not working and he asked Cena for help. I thought he meant help with his erectile dysfunction at first, but we get movie star, great wrestling talent John Cena selling an issue and leading towards SummerSlam, and then in the twinkling of an eye, they turn it to silly shit John Cena. He's great in it, but, it was just to give the fucking underneath guy an attitude adjustment, his move, and leave him laying. But, I mean, John's great at everything, but why did he have to be silly when they're talking about the main event at fucking SummerSlam? But anyway, that's what they did there. What'd you think?
Really good promo for the most part. I sat back when he came out. I missed the transition to the highlight clip, so I thought I did something wrong watching it on DVR, because I was like, I thought this was live. I thought he just came out live, and now it's back to this. But then started watching it. It was nice to hear a crowd pop like that. Just to sit back and listen to the crowd react like that was cool.
Like it used to do every week?
But he started getting too hokey with Corbin. And I don't blame Corbin. Corbin's fucking good in his role. He's delivering his lines, so it doesn't sound like they're lines. And
it's a fantastic performance in Plan 9 from Outer Space.
Exactly. That's the issue. It's on wrestling. But Cena gets too hokey. And you know what? Out of the two promos I've seen from Cena since he returned, I'll take this with the hokiness with Baron Corbin over the hokiness with Matt Riddle on Raw. But it's both promos. Serious promo, good promo. People are happy to hear from him. They both descend into comedy. Although this, in a sense, does pay off later in the show.
True. They at least worked it in, and we won't give it away yet, but I was actually pleasantly swerved. Anyway, next up was the Rey and Dominic Mysterio promo, and then Rey is going to wrestle Jimmy Uso with Dominic and Jay in the corners. And Mysterio's to Rey is telling Dominic, hey, watch your old man. Watch, I've still got a few tricks up my sleeve, and etc. And this, I love Rey Mysterio, but this stuff he's not great at doing scripted material, at least this scripted material, because it sounds like he's not being genuine. And Dominic is trying so hard to be the smiling son that it doesn't sound real from them. This is scripted stuff. And also the visual is off. Rey Mysterio is one of the great talents in the business, but he's the height of a 14-year-old, and Dominic is over 6 feet tall, but facially he looks 14, and Rey's patting him on it like, kid, watch me, kid, a foot taller and 50 pounds heavier than me, watch. I don't know.
The fact that, we're talking about the promo, the fact that he carries his dad to the ring on his back. He gives his dad a piggyback ride to the ring.
I'm just watching, Scott Armstrong carrying Bullet Bob to the ring. And, anyway, this was a regular WWE style match, but Mysterio's precision is always amazing. Whether it's a comeback or the heat spot or what, he floats when he does his flying shit. He's always in control. He knows which direction he's going. He did one dive and hit it perfectly. He builds to his spots. He builds to the 619. He builds to, impressive stuff. He doesn't just dive everywhere and flip as many times as he can and hope 16 people catch him. So if you want somebody to be doing flying and wrestling, you want it to be a guy like Rey Mysterio. And that's why also when you've got a Rey Mysterio, you should keep most other people from doing it, because they're not going to do it as well, and it just makes his shit look less impressive. Except for a new competitor that we'll talk about here in a little while. He may have Rey beat on the flipping. But the finish was really well done here. It fit the story that they were telling. That's something that the Usos have done in the past. Rey rolls Jimmy up after foiling the heels' effort to screw them, and then Dominic slides in and uses leverage to help the pin. It was perfect timing, got a nice pop from the people. and it got to point across. This was not a bad match. I don't know if I'm sold on the Usos as singles yet, or at least this Uso.
Well,
I don't know.
Well, I don't consider this a singles program. I mean, obviously, it's two tag teams having a singles
Well, I mean,
match.
just their work individually. I don't know if, it's... which one got arrested?
Jimmy, I think.
Well, now, let's not slander somebody without... But the point is, if Jimmy was working, he needs a little work in the gym rather than the bar afterwards. If it was him, go ahead.
It was indeed Jimmy Uso.
Okay, he needs to spend more time at the gym, less time at the bar.
Other than that, I thought it was all right and clever finish. I like the finish, and the fans reacted nice to it.
Well, there you go. All right, I want you to know I tried on this. Bianca Belair comes to the ring for an in-ring interview with young Kayla Braxton. And okay, because you had talked me into it, I took her as my 8th spot when I picked 8 girls for the WWE roster. And everybody says I haven't given her a chance. So I started watching this interview. She was all giggles at being champion for 110 days, and there was a lot of happy talk. And she was just pleased as punch, and she's got a pleasing smile, and she's delivering the material, but it's material. She's memorized it, and you can tell. And then, but she was happy, and then music interrupted, and here comes Carmella. She's the one, was she the one, her roster picture looks like one of those sex androids that they're building over in Japan or somewhere?
That is indeed what you said about her.
That's what I said. Yeah, she's gorgeous. And I don't buy her as a professional wrestler or any type of physical threat to fucking carbon paper. Let me try a newer reference. That streamer paper. For all you over 60 folks, that carbon paper didn't stand up very well. But she'll come on. And her first words were, "Oh my gosh, Bianca." And she sounds like a bitchy reality show TV woman, and she wants a title match. And as soon as she gets in the ring, Kayla Braxton, the interviewer, has just disappeared and is gone completely. Now they're just doing their own thing. And then suddenly music plays. Here comes Zelina Vega. More scripted, catty remarks amongst these reality show women, and then they all got in a fight, and it looked like a bunch of reality TV show bitchy women in a cat fight. And then here comes Sasha Banks' music. And she hit the ring to a big pop and hit shit on both the heels. Apparently she's been friends with Bianca in the past, so she hits shit on both the heels, clears the ring, and hugs Bianca Belair. That got over. I wrote there I may trade Sasha Banks for Bianca Belair on my WWE fantasy roster.
Didn't they wrestle at WrestleMania?
I don't fucking remember.
I think that's who Bianca beat for the title. That's who Bianca beat.
Well, there you go. Well, then now they're together. They're friends. Here.
That Carmella on the mic, she had the same delivery as Bowser from Sha-Na-Na.
Okay, now my carbon paper reference isn't that bad, but but yeah, this is girls being given dramatic material and then going out and having a couple of schoolgirl skirmishes. I'm sorry, I can't watch this shit.
It was good to see Sasha Banks. The fans really reacted. Thank God she was in her gear, ready to run out, and the guy was ready with the music. Otherwise, I don't know what would have happened to Bianca.
Yeah,
have her run out there in street clothes would have made the whole thing a little bit better. And
well, but then she wouldn't have had time to get dressed before they brought it back in a tag team match after this unscheduled incident.
Yes, they would have. Bianca did an outfit change. She was wearing shorts here and pants during the match.
Well, you're true. Well, in that case, then they just didn't think ahead.
Hey, whatever buzz there was, the questions that people were dying to know, what's going to happen with Zelina Vega? Where will she go next? What will she do? And boy, just in a few weeks, she's just another person on that roster.
I was about to, all those questions have not been answered because now nobody even cares to find out the answers to them. She just showed up and here, thank you for leaving and thank you for coming back. And whatever money she got not to sue him or talk to Mr. Wang, Andrew Wang, no offense,
Yang, not Wang.
Oh, I'm
It's Andrew Yang. It's not
Mr.
Andrew
Wang was in Caddyshack, and
that's right. Hey,
sorry.
Wang, what's with the parking lot?
Yeah, no offense.
Hey. Speaking of promos that you want to just tune out and do something else to, I got a feeling a lot of the listeners are using their Raycon earbuds during some of these SmackDown segments.
But not to listen to Smackdown.
No.
Because you want to be able to control the sounds of your life, folks. Stick something in your ears and listen to what you want to listen to, because there's a lot of bullshit going on in the world today. A lot of noise, both verbal and of the regular noise pollution kind. A lot of people saying things that you don't want to hear. A lot of people doing things that you don't want to pay attention to. Soundtrack your life. Create your own soundtrack with Raycon. We've been talking about them. The accolades, or even the Lex Luger allocades, have flown in from the cult of Cornette about these things. They're fantastic to listen to, not only because they look good, they don't stick out of your ears like some people that look like Ray Walston and My Favorite Martian. There's a carbon paper era reference. But also, they come with a bunch of gel tips for your comfort. They've got a 32-hour battery life. You can listen to what you want when you want for a really long time. You could be on Naked and Afraid on a desert island somewhere and have 32 hours of battery life with these Raycons. They start at half the price of other premium audio brands, but they sound just as good, and they come with a 45-day happiness guarantee. You can't really lose, because if you're not happy, they'll give you your money back. Give them a try. You'll see what we mean. Create your own life soundtrack with Raycon. And right now, the Drive-Thru listeners can get 15% off their Raycon order at buyraycon.com/JCE. That's BUYRAYCON, buyraycon.com/JCE. 15% off the entire order. You can buy a pair and a square, or a spare. A pair and a square. Can you spare a square, or buy a pair and a spare? Do you care?
I don't care about your square.
Well, if you needed to spare a square, and I had a spare to square, or a square to spare, see, I'm hurt.
I forgot. Did you finish the spot, or are we still in the middle of it?
I think I'm done.
Did you? Okay. Well, that's Raycon, ladies and gentlemen. And speaking of cons, let's get back to SmackDown.
Oh, boy. Well, Reggie was up next. His name was Reginald, but now you can call me Reggie. Or you can call me Ray, or you can call me Jay. But you doesn't got to call me Johnson.
This may have been my favorite segment on the whole show.
Brother
This thing
almighty.
was so ridiculous.
And see, this is why the show becomes a chore to watch. Because bookending things like John Cena and Roman Reigns and stars are Reginald or Reggie. So this guy was, he was French first, and he was a wine expert, right? Brought in by one of the women. He used to work at Cirque du Soleil, so the jokes actually wrote themselves. He did an interview in the back where he recited a memorized script in one of the phonier ways that I've ever heard it recited, because he's not an actor and he's not a wrestler. He's a fucking acrobat. And he's a good one, but he's never talked on television before, and you can tell because this went way too long and it was rotten. And then they send him to the ring, and he handsprings all the way down the aisle and then jumped on a trampoline to flip over the top. And it looked as slick as anybody in Cirque du Soleil, because that's where he used to work. Because did I mention he's not a wrestler? He's an acrobat. So I don't know what's worse. The amateurs trying to be acrobats on AEW and just falling all over everybody and slipping and fucking botching and landing on their ass or somebody else, or the other company actually going out and hiring real acrobats now to become wrestlers. I'm not sure which is worse.
Now, look, it may have been the weed, but when he started flipping down to the ring, I lost it. I started cracking up because it was the most ridiculous thing. And now the SmackDown set, because they don't have the stage, it's flat in the back.
Yeah.
But the monitor makes it look like there's still rows of fans that aren't there. So here's this guy just flipping and his people reacting. And then they have the springboard, so he does the big flip. It was so ridiculous, I laughed.
And
then I'm sorry to play spoiler, and then he leaves the same way he comes to the fucking ring. He starts back flipping away at the end.
Yes, after a match with a. But now we must mention that he is the new 24/7 champion, old Reggie, and he defended it here against poor Chad Gable, who now Otis, formerly of what was it, Heavy Machinery, or he had the gas station attendant's outfit on with his name, Otis, on his pocket or whatever.
Yeah.
Now he's in red, white, and blue and a singlet, and Chad Gable is the Olympian kind of fucking, amateur athlete. And so the match was with Chad Gable, not Otis. They milked it was going to be Otis for a second, and Otis hits Reggie, and then Chad Gable gloms him. And every time Gable starts to do something to Reggie starts flipping and avoids him. Chad stops him again, and Reggie starts flipping again, and finally Otis just jumped in the ring and glommed Reggie, and Gable got disqualified. And God damn it. Again, this guy is minute and a circus acrobat and an Olympian, or not an Olympian, but an amateur wrestler of the level that Chad Gable really was. Just in several minutes, just a few minutes, just needs his big cohort to come in and do a cheap DQ. I don't know what the fuck. Why did Reggie have to be a wine expert stooge for one of the mid-level girls? If he's a world-class gymnast, why not bring him in as, hey, guess what? This guy's a world-class gymnast. At least that would present him as some type of athlete.
Well, you gotta pay your dues. You got to pay your dues.
Ricky Starr, for fuck's sake.
No, well, this guy had to pay his dues and, be the hairdresser for Carmelo, whatever he was.
Well, no, but again, for fuck's sake, bring the guy. If you sign the guy because you're excited that he does all his acrobatics and does it better than most of the wrestlers that aren't acrobats, then make his gimmick that he comes in. He's a world-class gymnast and he's performed at a high level, but he's also studied martial arts and wants to try to combine the two, and he's got an unorthodox style that nobody can contend with, but he's still a pro athlete. He's not just a goof that used to work at Cirque du Soleil. Fuck. Adapt the talent to the business they're getting into. Don't adapt the business to the talent.
With that said, Jim, I like Chad Gable with Otis. Again, this is not the goofy Otis, and it will take time to see if he turns goofy again, but he was serious. He's got a legitimate collegiate wrestling background, so does Gable. I think that's not his real name, Gable. I forget what his real name is.
Shorty G is his real name.
That's not his real name either, but I kind of sign me up for that. I'll watch them as a tag team working some matches against another team. I'll take that.
I agree with you, and I wish that we hadn't had to see Otis the other way and Shorty G so that we would take them more seriously. That's a
WWE thing. That makes no sense, but they do that to so many guys, and then they don't understand why people don't take to the new character, the new gimmick.
Because it's not real, because he was just somebody else, and we know that. We just saw it. I honestly and truthfully, besides not giving a lot of these guys stupid bad gimmicks to begin with, if I was Vince McMahon, perish the thought, but if I was, I would not allow my creative team to repackage anybody straight off television. I would say, okay, can you give me something that I can do with this guy instead of this silly fucking shit you just put on him? Give me an idea for a gimmick that I can give this guy that he can be meaningful and be used on top. And if you do that, then I will pay him to be off for 6 months and not leave the house so people will get the taste out of their mouth, and then bring him back so that my television doesn't look stupid by having a guy be a different person under a different name and a different gimmick. The very next week he's been on previous programming. Leave it 6. If he ain't worth paying for 6 months to be off to turn into somebody else, then let's just let the other folks have him, because he ain't worth shit.
Still your champion, Reggie.
There you go. So now another one of the highlights of the program, the contract signing between Roman Reigns. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say this was the true highlight of the show, if I was going to be honest.
But actually, this should have actually been the main event spot, because then they baited and switched us on but they wanted this for the 9 o'clock hour.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. Yeah.
But anyway, the contract signing, Reigns with Heyman versus Finn Balor for SummerSlam, that big main event that Reigns has accepted. And again, Balor comes out. Well, I love Finn Balor. He's a fucking star, but no, I won't say people expected this to be changed, but nobody would have expected that Finn Balor is going to be beating Roman Reigns at this point in time. So Reigns and Heyman come out. Paul has lost weight. He's down to only one chin. One extra chin, I should say.
Awful.
But the thing about Heyman, besides his verbal fucking brilliance, his whole body language, in the way that he comes to the ring with or is around Roman Reigns, is perfect. It screams toady and stooge. It's deferential and it's, he's a perfect fucking weasel. Reigns did a great promo. He belittled Finn Balor in a backhanded way by referring to what Cena said. Cena said he accepted this match because you didn't want to face me. Well, that must mean that Balor is less than Cena in his eyes, doesn't it, Mr. Balor? Blah, blah, blah. The material is not only believable from him, what he's saying, and of course, because Heyman's standing there. So Roman Reigns is not going to be saying anything stupid that's not believable. But also, he does it naturally, like it's his to begin with. He's thinking of it. And after, he basically rakes Balor over the coals, and Finn answers back a little bit and goes to sign the contract, and Corbin out of nowhere. Fucking here's Corbin dressed in the same shit that he was dressed in. I mean, my God, I remember the story that Vince told when he was on his way to bankruptcy court. The first time that he declared bankruptcy back in the early 80s, him and Linda, when he was running that Cape Cod Coliseum, he'd still gone and got a fucking like a $30 manicure to go to bankruptcy court. And Bruce Pritchard asked him why. He said, well, I can't live like a savage. So at least Corbin could fucking button his shirt up, for heaven's sake, even if he is bankrupt. So he comes out and beats the teetotal shit out of fucking Finn Balor and tosses him out into the crowd. And thanks for coming, Finn. Did you notice we never saw Finn Balor again? As a babyface, he was jumped from behind by an underneath guy when he was at a contract signing for the main event title match at SummerSlam. He got the shit kicked out of him, tossed over the barricade into the crowd, and we never saw him again. So here's your pile of dog shit, Mr. Balor. Anyway.
By the way, when that happened, when Baron Corbin attacks Balor, the officials, Adam Pearce and Sonya Deville, they reacted with horror. Heyman, didn't know what to do. Reigns just sat back and watched.
Yes.
It was perfect.
Never moved. He was just leaned back in his chair. Not quite as far as I am now, but leaned back. So anyway, Balor gets shit canned, and then Corbin grabs the contract that's been dropped that Balor didn't sign and goes to sign it. And I'll get the boom, boom, and here comes Cena, and the people fucking blow. And Cena slides in and fucking kicks the shit out of Corbin and shit cans him and grabs the contract and signs it. And the people go crazy. And Reigns sits there in the chair, and the only thing that changed was his facial expression. He didn't move, but his expression went from he was pleased to be there at the start, he was amused when Corbin hit the ring, and now he's fucking pissed. And now he's also pissed and worried. The whole Corbin involvement, it was preposterous, but superbly done, I thought. And it got to fucking people.
I thought this was great. And I thought, first of all, Roman Reigns and Heyman are so fucking good together. Like you said, even when Heyman doesn't talk, his mannerisms, the lack of mannerisms, whatever it is, always perfect. I will say my cable box gives me the option to fast forward 30 seconds at a time on DVR. I think I hit it 7 times from the moment Roman came out to when he got in the ring. Took him a while to get there. But this was really good. And like you said, the only bad thing is Balor. I guess we're going to get Corbin and Balor. I don't know if that's a SummerSlam match or just next week on SmackDown, but he was just tossed out to the trash. But we get Cena and Reigns. Same show, you're going to have Goldberg versus Lashley. Those are 2 valid main events.
And then they followed it up after the break backstage. Heyman comes up and confronts Pierce and Sonya Deville about, what are you going to do about this? And Pierce delivered the perfect line. Hey, it's good enough for me. Of course, I thought this was a slip up, possibly here on Paul's part, or just a slip up of the way he said it. The way he phrased it was, what are you going to do about this? I mean, it was good for the people and everything, but Finn Balor's name is on the contract, but it's John Cena's signature. Just to make it even a little less see-through, and it wouldn't have been a big change, and they could have all said almost the same thing, I would have had Pierce say, look at this contract, Mr. Heyman. It doesn't have Finn Balor's name anywhere on it. And like they fucking were trying to zoom Reigns to begin with. Because if it was a contract for Finn Balor to face Roman Reigns, then if John Cena or goddamn Peter Rabbit signed it, but if it was a contract with no names and they both signed it, they could have got that by a little better that way, I think. But otherwise,
do you play with this until SummerSlam? I know it's coming up pretty soon, but do you play with?
I think Paul's got to get a lawyer.
Yeah.
And I mean, I'm sure he knows a number. So most of them have probably been an adversarial relationship, but nevertheless.
Because at one point McAfee yells out, I think, will it be ratified? And I was like, oh,
will it be? It's a contract, not a constitutional amendment. I still can't believe they ain't got McAfee in the ring for something. I want to see him wrestle again. Anyway, what's next? It's your show.
I don't know. What was next on SmackDown?
Oh, I forgot. Okay, well, I'll tell you what. It was a 6-man tag team match, or as they say over on AEW, a trios match. Big E made an entrance, and then that Boogs started playing the guitar for Nakamura. Cesaro was already down there. I've fast-forwarded through Boogaloo Boogs, and it was apparently Nakamura, Cesaro, and Big E with Boogs against Apollo Crews, Bobby Roode, and Dolph Ziggler with Commando Sleaze in the corner. What is his name? Major Meat? Major Guns? Major...
Yeah, I'm not sure, but he got the haircut from the girl in Bow Wow Wow.
Bow wow. Anyway, they started the match, and after 30 seconds of the match, after we'd heard that awful guitar playing and screaming from this Boogs character and all the blah, 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 we got 30 seconds of a match and went to the commercial, so I just never came back. They came back from the break, but I didn't. I've skipped on to the next segment involving a star. What did I miss?
What's his name? Boogs? Boogs got involved. At one point, it was so ridiculous. I wish you would have watched this. He stood up on the stairs and just started playing guitar, and it distracted the heels, and that led to the baby faces getting the win.
Well, normally I think that was a bogus method of distraction, but the way he plays guitar, it would distract you.
Do you think we're going to get a Boogs-Elias feud?
I don't know what the fucking issue is with either one of these guys, but Boogs makes me want to see Elias. Because this guy's way further over the top than Elias. Elias was boring, but Boogs is annoying. Anyway.
Someone said, let's think of a gimmick that didn't work. I know, Man Mountain Rock. Let's try it again.
Oh, I hadn't thought of him. In my God, what was his name?
Daryl Peterson?
Daryl Peterson.
Yeah.
Nice fucking guy. Gimmick did not work. Nice guy. Anyway. The next segment, I liked, not only did I like this, but also it redeemed someone for me a little bit. I shall explain. before they went to the break, Edge came out, had a big entrance, and he milked the people like a fucking cow. And apparently we know why now, because that's the only appearance he was going to get, because he gets in the ring for his big live interview. They go to the break, they come back, and there's Seth Rollins in the ring. And during the break, we see that they play the footage that Rollins has attacked Edge and just beat the shit out of him, including grabbing a TV camera from one of the cameramen and crowning Edge with it. And apparently they carted Edge off somewhere, and Seth Rollins is in the ring. Now, you can argue that why the fuck would he still be allowed to be in the ring when he's just attacked this guy, beat him up, disrupted the show, committed physical assault, etc., and there'd be nobody around, and they've just let him. Okay, well, since you did that, go ahead and take Edge's interview time. But if we can look past that,
hey, they're letting guys sign contracts that aren't even for their own matches. Why wouldn't they do that?
Well, true. All right. So, but if we can look past these things, this is one of the reasons why Bill Watts and Roy Shire and nobody else would be involved in wrestling these days, because you have to overlook a lot of leaps. But anyway, having said that, Seth Rollins actually did a good fucking promo. It wasn't the Monday Night Messiah where he was boring and whiny. He had a temper. He was mad. He's sick of Edge. He was fired up. Edge has taken his opportunity for the championship in the past, and that's why that he cost Edge the title match versus Reigns, and they showed the package to illustrate that. Imagine that. He's actually mad now, and he's yelling at the guy because he's jealous because he got Seth Rollins' title shot, and so Seth Rollins cost Edge his title shot, and we've got a personal issue here. I wonder if they just wandered upon this by accident, or whether they actually intended to do this because it actually makes sense. And Seth closes with, if I can't be the champion, neither can Edge. Good. Great. Wrestling. And you've criticized the Monday Night Messiah's promos and his nasally voice in the past, but he what's the word they use? He projected his voice for this one.
I'll take your word for it.
You didn't see it.
I went right past this one.
Are you fucking kidding?
I went past Edge coming to the ring, and then I kept fast forwarding. Then I saw it was Rollins, and I said, I can't watch this guy.
Oh, man. How convenient.
Tooth and nail rule.
Oh, come on.
Every time I hear him talk, I want to take a nail
and gouge one of your teeth out. You know, that would be even worse than just pulling it the old-fashioned way, as if you were to take a 10-penny nail and just gouge the motherfucker right out of your gum.
I think that would do it, yeah.
Well, then you can help me, because the only thing left on SmackDown at that point was the tag match from the schoolgirl fight earlier in the program, Bianca Belair and Sasha Banks against Carmella and Zelina. And I fast-forwarded through the match, but I did see the angle afterwards. Did I miss anything in the match?
I fast-forwarded through the match, and I saw the angle afterwards.
You son of a bitch.
You know what? There's a reason this is the main event on this show going into the 10 o'clock hour, because I think I'm going to guess that's when the people are starting to tune out. The contract signing should have been the last thing.
Wait a minute. Let me ask you this. If Friday night from 8 to 10, another program's going to be Friday nights from 10 to 11, do you think they're trying on purpose to start tanking the audience 20 minutes before? 20 minutes to 10?
No, that's the
20
kind of...
20 minutes to 10. Let's fucking run them off.
Next thing you're going to do is accuse them of calling dominoes.
I'd never do that. But anyway, Sasha and Bianca won. Since Zelina is no bigger than a hiccup and Carmella couldn't fucking break goddamn carbon paper. But Sasha and Bianca won, and then Sasha Banks suddenly turned on Bianca Belair, gave her her backstabber move, hit her with about 86 fake-looking punches and a big DDT, and then put her in a crossface and made her tap, even though she was tapping. Obviously, it wasn't a match. And then she let go, and then she did it again, apparently because they had more time left on live television. Because it ended up perfectly the first time. I'll go back, and somebody was on the IFB going, get her again. We got 45 seconds left. And that was that.
And that was that, and that was Smackdown. We'll zip through it again this week. Maybe we'll do it a little bit quicker. But Jim,
well, that wasn't bad. We give the really bad stuff a lot of time, so we need to give just the kind of bad stuff equal time.
Well, I will say though, the good stuff is really good. Roman Reigns is at another level right now.
If there was just a Roman Reigns, Paul Heyman, and John Cena show, that would just
with Baron Corbin. With Baron Corbin as the town drunk. You need that. You need that on that show, I think.
Otis Corbin.
But Jim, I think maybe coming out of this main event, some of the people that were watching, what was it, Sasha and Bianca versus Carmella and Zelina, perhaps some of these weirdo wrestling fans come out of watching that match and say, hey, I want to be hairless like them. Tell them about Manscaped.
Oh, for heaven's sake. Now, you're just, I'll tell you one thing, though. Talk about tanking the audience 20 minutes before the top of the hour for the next program to come on. You've just tanked the audience right here with that transition. Nevertheless, folks, and I'll tell you, the Manscaped products are indeed soft enough and fair enough for the fairer sex to use, but they certainly perform well. But I've gotten, actually, a late breaking news bulletin from the folks at Manscaped. It's not only a worldwide news bulletin, it's a galaxy-wide news bulletin. Attention listeners across the galaxy, from Australia to Houston, do we have a pube problem? Ooh, if so, our friends at Manscaped have cleared you for takeoff with their 4th generation brand new Lawnmower 4.0. Kick your pubes to the next planet. With the Performance Package 4.0, the orbits in your pants will feel like you're in zero gravity when you use the best tools for the job from the leaders in male grooming. Your transition doesn't sound too bad now. But, folks, I'll tell you what. We've talked about the Manscaped products, and no joke, they are our favorite personal grooming products that have ever been made. As a matter of fact, the Lawnmower 4.0, the incredible space-age trimmer with the LED light, the cutting-edge ceramic blade, the advanced skin-safe technology, 7,000 RPM motor, a new multi-function on and off switch. It's even waterproof. This is one of the finest appliances you will have in your home, and you will not nick or cut or gouge or need stitches or anything with this thing. It literally melts your pubes and or any other bodily hair you might have from various orifices from top to bottom. It melts the hair off magically. They've also got the Performance Package 4.0, which includes the Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, the crop preserver ball deodorant, the Crop Reviver toner, the Performance Boxer briefs, even a travel bag to hold your entire solar system, Brian. Everything's waterproof and the finest quality that money can buy, even though it's cheap. So, abort hairy balls and Buzz Lightyear that Woody, as they say, with Manscaped. You can go to manscaped.com/JCE, get 20% off and free shipping. Manscaped.com/JCE, 20% off and free shipping on everything in the place. They let me know that your space balls will thank you for this effort.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It's time once again for your favorite show, Corny Crows. Jim?
Yes.
Last time you told me you had something to crow about. This time I sprung this on you. What do you have to crow about this time?
Oh, for fuck's sake. Well, I'll tell you what I'm...
I don't know why I find this so funny. And by the way, someone pointed out these aren't crows, they're roosters.
But roosters crow. The rooster crows.
Several people wrote to me, they go, they aren't crows, they're roosters. But anyway.
I'll tell you one thing I'm a crow about.
Yeah.
Have you heard? No, you got to.
No, that's the one that jumps the 6 feet, so I lowered that one.
All right. But anyway, have you seen, and I'm not breaking anybody's personal business because he said this himself in public, Batista has just done an interview where he said before he got the role of Drax in the Marvel movies, after his first WWE run, he was broke. He said his house got foreclosed on. The IRS was mad at him. He had to sell everything he had. How is that fucking possible? He was making over $1 million a year at his height. Certainly, that was the level he was at, and he was there for a couple or 3 years. What? How is that even possible? Is there video footage of him going down the streets of Manhattan just throwing money to homeless people right and left? How would you spend that much money?
Well, first thing he said was tax issues, so that tells you he wasn't paying federal taxes. Who knows about state taxes? So right there, you could take whatever he was earning and realize you're going to take 33%, give or take, off of that. Big houses. He said something about his mortgage, big cars, living it up. Money goes pretty quick.
Good Lord. Hey, he said he didn't learn, this was a phrase that he used one time, he didn't learn anything at OVW. Apparently he didn't, because part of my curriculum with the guys at OVW, and this goes back to at least the Cena class, and yeah, he was in there, so I not only told the guys how to keep their records about always write down their matches and their finishes and their payoffs and etc., but also their travel expenses and their road expenses. And I made mention of how that you need to make your quarterly estimated self-employment tax payments. And I even circulated a number of memos at various point in times of the phone number and address of my accountant here in Louisville if they needed help with preparing their tax returns. And I wasn't giving this out to the guys that were waiting tables at Chili's and there at OVW just learned to wrestle, although they could hopefully learn that lesson. But I was primarily giving that stuff out to the guys that had WWE contracts, along with memos that said, gentlemen, your WWE contracts indicate that you possibly will make large amounts of money in the future in this business, and here's the way to take care of it. So apparently he didn't learn that either. But you would have thought that when he started working out with the son-in-law and learned everything else about wrestling, you would have thought he'd learned that too.
We don't know anything about what Triple H does in terms of spending.
No, I was being facetious. I was all of a sudden the light bulb went on when he started working out in the gym with Triple H, and he hadn't learned anything up to that point. I was that maybe Triple H ought to say, well, don't be a fucking idiot. You're making $1 million a year and you're almost 40. Don't spend it. Because I saw Batista's age quoted in this same article and realized it, because I've always said he was a late starter. He didn't get in the business until he was, older than most people start. When he was training here, he was either 32 or 33. And that was from scratch and injury prone. And as soon as he got here, I've mentioned he had I think a bicep tear and had surgery, which is why he was able to sit out and watch some guys, because he was really brutal when he first got here. So when a guy is almost 35 and getting his first spot at the WWE and has only been in the business 1.5 years, 2 years at that point tops, I would have been counseling him, and injury prone, as we mentioned, I'd have been counseling him to save his money and plan for a 3 to 5 year run. I've always said this, and that's what he got. Remember, we did the math one time. We had somebody take out the time that he spent out for injuries, and his run in the WWE was like 3 months off what I'd projected when he was in OVW. Thankfully now, because of the way that he was born and looks and has the genetics for, he was able to become a movie star and make it all back again. A lot of people don't get that chance.
He's really good in those Guardians of the Galaxy movies. He's perfect in that role.
What, a space alien mutant?
Yes, actually, I guess that's exactly
there you go.
He's perfect in. But Jim, let's get another question here.
I have an email from a friend of yours, since you surprised me with the cock crowing, or the crow cocking, or whatever it is they do. I have an email from a friend of yours, Charlie from Starkville, Mississippi.
Oh.
And I just wanted to just jump in and read this here, because this is what we've been, another of the testimonials to the intelligence quotients of our listeners here in the cult of Cornette, because they've been maligned and insulted lately. Both Uncle Dave and our favorite wrestling artist Twinkle Toes have said that our fans have a low IQ. They're a low IQ audience, and people have been taking exception to that. Charlie writes in. Of course, it doesn't help his case that he lives in Starkville, Mississippi, but that's a charity thing. He opened up a halfway house down there for women that wouldn't go all the way. But he says, "Hi, Jim. I just wanted to put my 2 cents in on the low IQ discussion. I'm a college graduate and also a published author. My wife, who is also a listener, has a PhD and is a college professor. My mother, who loves to hear you talk about animals, has a master's in English and is also a published author. My son, who actually got a question answered on the drive-thru, has already skipped a grade. So apparently not liking people chop themselves up with pizza cutters on a Wednesday night is too highbrow for all of us. Thanks, Charlie from Starkville, Mississippi."
All right, well, let's get some more questions. I will say a lot of listeners are all of a sudden sending in their resumes or just their accolades.
Yes.
To say,
because
here's what I am. I went to MIT. I went to Brown. All these emails started coming in after those comments from Kenny and Dave.
Well, that's because most of our viewers and listeners went to Penn State, and Meth Head McGee went to the State Penn. See, that's the difference.
Jim, our next question sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Charlie in Starkville, Mississippi. And actually, a few people sent in this question. Let me read Charlie's and I'll read someone else's.
You got to read Charlie's.
Well, because I didn't know about this until I read this email, and then I saw a couple other ones. The Young Bucks recently claimed that AEW spent $50,000 to license the song from Space Jam for their themed entrance on Dynamite. What are your thoughts on Tony Khan spending $50K for the entrance? And then the other email sent to CornyDriveThru at gmail.com from Jeremy King. I would love to hear your thoughts on Tony Khan spending $50,000 to license the Space Jam theme for one night as a birthday present for Nick Jackson.
But, God damn it. I had heard in between the time that we excoriated the bad comedy that was that entire match and all the entrances and the whole 9 yards from last week's show, somebody had said, well, it was a sponsorship, that there's a new Space Jam movie, and they were plugging that. And that was a way to defend that horribleness and awfulness with the basketball entrance and the goal and trying to dunk the ball while they were doing the Meltzer driver and blah, blah, blah. So since I've never seen the first Space Jam movie, and I'm unlikely to see any future Space Jam movies, I didn't give a shit because it was still bad wrestling television. But now, what is to be believed here? Was this at least a sponsorship and some reason to do this in their minds, in their feeble minds, as flimsy as that reason may have been, there was a reason, or this was just something for one of the fucking Hardley boys for his birthday and they spent money on the music? They couldn't have spent money on the music if it was a sponsorship where they were supposed to be plugging the movie, correct? Why would they have spent $50,000 to get the music to plug the movie when they're being paid to plug the movie?
Well, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I was just dazzled by their ball handling skills when they were out there. But while the Young Bucks and Kenny were dribbling, were they plugging the movie? I don't remember that.
Well, no, this is what people said after the fact. Oh, it's a great tie-in with the Space Jam movie thing that they did. But did they? This is something now we need answered. So what is the story here? Was this some kind of promotion for a new Space Jam movie and they shoehorned it into the wrestling match in an obtrusive way? Or was it something for one of the Cucamonga kids' birthdays and they spent $50,000 on music? Vince McMahon doesn't like to license music at all to begin with. And it opens up a can of peas, I can tell you, with talent, because When this guy gets music, why can't that guy have music? And then everybody's fucking pissed off, which is why Vince just won't fucking do it, except for Punk, which was why everybody knew that he got everything he wanted. But why would they then spend $50,000 on a spot? None of this makes a lot of sense. So can somebody give us the scoop on this? What was it? Why was it there? Was it just them again jacking off as it appeared to me at the time? Or was it some type of movie tie-in that then they took and ran with and actually spent money to do a sponsor spot? I don't know what the fuck's going on here. And no, I don't put it past Tony Khan to do anything for a wrestler's birthday, since, as you'll remember, one of the first things that got me to my level of disdain for the Jackson boys there was that they super kicked the 8-year-old kid for his birthday on a show in the ring in front of people. So I can believe that another grade school child, like one of the Jacksons themselves, would have something done for them for their birthday that made a bad wrestling show even worse as well. So, but somebody out there fill us in. What's causing all this, as Arn Anderson used to say?
Have a question for you. Taking Animus out of the equation.
Oh, he's straight out of it.
Out of the equation.
Oh, Joe Animus? He's
That's
completely
right.
Out of this equation.
I think Kenny and the Young Bucks are different in this manner, or in this respect. I'd like to know what you think. If right now, the way things are going with AEW, the trajectory they're on, the talent that's there, the numbers that they're getting each and every week, which have been somewhat steady in that range, and the shows all doing good, the live shows, all selling out and doing really good with tickets. Not all, but the big shows are selling out and doing really well with ticket sales. Do you think it would hurt AEW if they didn't have the Young Bucks? I could see it hurting them not having Kenny right now. But if the Young Bucks weren't on these shows, would it actually affect AEW's bottom line in a negative way?
No, because if everything else was still the same, the people that like, the same people that like the Young Bucks, like Olivier, and like that whole genre, Pockets, the whole 9 yards. So if all the rest of their comedy favorites were still on the program, no, they wouldn't set the seats on fire if the Young Bucks weren't there. But I thought, this is the question I thought you were going to ask, and this may be even more interesting. What's going to happen when all of a sudden the top talent in the company, both from a television rating standpoint, from an in-ring standpoint, from a money-drawing standpoint, is no longer the EVPs? Does anybody seriously, is anybody out there besides the worst of the converts, the Kool-Aid drinkers, is anybody going to say that Kenny Olivier is a bigger star than CM Punk or Bryan Danielson? Or is anybody going to say that, my God, that the Young Bucks would be major talents to be slotted at a level competitive with or farther up than CM Punk or Bryan Danielson or Bray Wyatt or whatever role Ric Flair ends up in? It's not going to be wrestling. I'm just talking about wrestling talent. When AEW picks up enough top talent from the WWE that these guys no longer stand up, what's going to happen then? They're still in control of the booking. They're still in control of Tony Khan, who, does anything that anybody asks him to do because he has no balls. Then are they going to start burying guys that they've paid millions of dollars for, or not featuring to their fullest guys they've paid millions of dollars for because of their belief that they still should be presented as bigger stars than a CM Punk or Bryan Danielson or Bray Wyatt or fucking Adam Cole or blah, 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 or whoever in the future? That could be interesting, because at some point, what if they, this is fantasy because it's different time eras, but what about if they had Steve Austin and The Rock in their prime? and they somehow managed to sign them. But there is the EVPs that are still, they'd be good for a small territory. Kansas City, they'd be on top, but we're talking the biggest stars in wrestling, and they're still going to be presented at that level or above it. That's going to be interesting. If they are able to assemble enough of a big star roster from the WWE that a lot of people, not just in their bubble, know who these guys are, like they started with Jericho, and then he shit the bed all over himself. That's going to be interesting.
But looking at all the shows in Queens and Chicago, everything. I mean, I was thinking about it the other day because I think you could say the same thing about Cody. I think Omega matters more to those fans right now than the Bucks or Cody. And I think you could start looking at it like if you took Cody out of it, doesn't hurt AEW. The fans will still go to the shows and react the same. The Bucks, it's more of a question, but I still don't think it would hurt AEW.
No, they would. It might. The fucking fans were booing every time Cody punched old Malachi Jones in the face the other night. So I don't know if it might help AEW if Cody was gone right now. But no, nobody would set the seats on fire as long as they're seeing the cons. It's like ECW. Guys came and went, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly. But as long as it was ECW, the people that were drinking Paul's Kool-Aid were, it's still ECW. It's still AEW. It's still the show where we can laugh and joke and everybody will do all these cool spots and nothing is supposed to look real and nobody cares and it doesn't make any difference. So just one or two of the inmates climbing the wall of the asylum doesn't mean they're going to, close the whole thing down.
Well, Jim, maybe one of these executive vice presidents in the future will see that they've lost their position, will think they've been cheated, and will look to finally sue.
Well, if they do, then I know who they could call, or more importantly, if they do lose their position and they need to get booked on a future event in Beckley, West Virginia for All-Star Wrestling, I can tell you who also sponsors that event coming up this weekend, August 7th, the Bash in Beckley, none other than...
Call Stephen P. News. If you need to sue. An outlaw mud show or two. Those are the rest.
But now that I think about it, if it's the Hardley Boys or some of their ilk that have lost their position, they shouldn't call All-Star Wrestling or Stephen P. New to get booked in Beckley because there's a law in West Virginia. You can't wrestle professionally unless you're over the age of 18 and you got to be this tall to ride the ride. But otherwise, folks, if you have legal difficulties, the man that stands head and shoulders above the rest, the man that is tall enough to see over the mountaintop and to the promised land of legal repercussions that he will get you out of, and he will deliver to you your compensation forthwith and aforesaid, and with all of those legalese words thrown in, the man to call, Stephen P. New, newlawoffice.com, 888-692-8084. Whether your groundwater has been poisoned, whether you've been assaulted by people and doctors and staff at the Veterans Administration Hospital, the CPAP machine, the Philips CPAP machine that Stacy had to quit using and that other people have written and told us that they were aware of now because of our spots, the Philips CPAP machine that is degenerating and spreading out cancerous causing agents, all these things that can hurt you, you don't even know is going on, and more. The law office of Stephen P. New, 888-692-8084. He's handled so many cases for so many members of the cult of Cornette and still is over the last few years. And also, remember, this Saturday night, August the 7th, the Bash in Beckley at the Raleigh County Convention Center, All-Star Wrestling, the big sponsor, New Law Office, and our friend Stephen P. New. He's one of us.
That's right, a great man, Stephen P. New. But Jim, a few more questions before we wrap things up. This next question.
I got a question for you. Where are we watching TakeOver on August 22nd?
I believe I will be in the office here in Last Manor. I'll be sitting here, maybe eating a pizza, perhaps French toast. What?
The last pizza and French toast. You'd have the syrup on your pizza.
One or the other. I didn't say
French toast.
I didn't say and. I said or.
Well, anyway, the point is we had asked on a previous show, is this on Peacock? Apparently it's on Peacock.
I think so. We've heard reaction that it's on Peacock.
TakeOver on August 22nd. Walter and Ilya, the rematch. Samoa Joe and Karrion Kross. Are we going to get Adam Cole and Kyle O'Reilly after that angle last week, or have we found out yet?
I assume we are not only getting it, but it's going to be Adam Cole's last night in the company.
Well, but when you assume, you make an ass out of you and me. It could be that they throw in a last-ditch offer and save the day and retain Adam Cole. But one way or another, we get to see him and O'Reilly one more time. So this is a show. When is the last time there were 3 matches on a show that I wanted to see?
Ooh, that's a great question. I can't think of the answer, actually.
I don't know that there's been one in the last 3 decades, so we'll find out. Anyway, what's your question?
This question sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Greg Charles in Biloxi, Mississippi. I'm trying to figure out how the 90-day compete clause works, I think it means non-compete, when a wrestler is released. If the company voids the contract, how can they enforce a non-compete since it was them breaking the contract, not the wrestler? Does the company continue to pay the talent for 90 days that they aren't allowed to go work somewhere else? Or is the released wrestler out of both work and the paycheck?
No, and this, I wish more people understood this. There is a 90-day non-compete clause in most of the WWE contracts. I think in the past, sometimes it had been 60 days. Maybe that was in developmental, blah, blah, blah. But the point is, during that period of time, they are paying you, and that's why you can't do anything else. They don't release you and say, okay, you got your last check, pal, but for 3 months you can't do anything. No, they release you, and it's not breaking the contract. And see, that's the thing that a lot of guys don't understand, and that's the Pillman Dark Side of the Ring episode focused on a bit of this and should have let everybody know that the reason why Pillman took the WWF deal was because Vince was guaranteeing the money with no 90-day out clauses. Whereas WCW early on in the 90s started putting in clauses in their contracts where, yeah, I'll sign you, Brian, for 2 years for $500,000 a year. But when you sign that contract, there's a clause in it that they've been different. At one point, it was every 90 days there's a review period. Or at one point, it was a clause that we can, at any time we want to, give you 90-day notice, and they're not breaking the contract. They're just exercising a clause that's beneficial to them that fucks you. So then if you signed that 2-year contract 4 months ago, and they decide, you know what, we changed our mind. They give you 90 days notice, and they'll pay you another 90 days, and you can't work anywhere else during that 90 days, but then you're free to because they ain't going to pay you anymore. And that's the way that they screwed Danny Davis with OVW, the last contract that they signed. They signed a 2-year deal with Danny Davis at the start of, I believe it was 2007, so that he would turn around, because since OVW and everything at that point, especially when I sold my piece back to him, was in his name, he wanted them to sign a contract with him before he turned around and signed his lease on his arena, and before he signed other long-term commitments that were going to be 2 and 3 years. He wanted to know what was going on, so they signed a 2-year contract extension on the original 5-year. Well, we were 5 years. We had an original 1 year. Then they made a 5-year, I think, and then they signed a 2-year extension. Now, I was gone by that time. So point is, he went and signed his lease on the building and signed all his, and re-upped the deal with the TV station, did a lot of things. And then like 4 or 5 months later, when they were farther along and being able to set up their own thing in Florida Championship Wrestling at that point, and fuck Danny, they exercised the clause in the contract after they'd said, yeah, you're in our plans for the next 2 years. Here's this contract. We've signed it. less than 6 months later, they're back. Well, Florida is more convenient as a location, like that they've moved Louisville, Kentucky in the previous 6 months. It's not where it used to be. It's way farther now. So they do that to get what they want at the time. And if guys don't have the pull to get the 90-day clause or periodic review clause or whatever taken out and just make it a straight 2 years for this much money, pay or play, whatever, then that's what happens to them. That's how they fucked Gallows and Anderson on those big contracts that they signed and then held them for 4 months. But that's what the no compete is.
Our next question, Jim, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Cameo Chris in London, United Kingdom. Does Jim think it would be better for Vince McMahon to just let it all go and become a mentor to Tony Khan?
Oh, Jesus.
Because
what?
It sounds like it is clearly bothering him after that investors call, and all his apparent heirs have failed, a.k.a. Shane, Steph, and Triple H, to turn it around.
Who's failed to turn what around here?
Shane, Stephanie, and Triple H, according to this email from Cameo Chris.
To turn what around? Actually, they're doing less well now than they ever really have, so there was nothing to turn around. They're trailing downwards, but they were really successful before. No, good God, no. Vince McMahon being a mentor to Tony Khan. And again, for everybody that will say things about Vince, I say the same thing about Vince and Tony Khan that I used to say when the writers from the Stamford office would come maybe once a year or every 2 years to OVW for 2 or 3 hours. I need either 5 minutes or 5 years with them, because anything in between wouldn't do either one of us any good. You either say hello, how are you, have a pleasant fucking greeting and go on your merry ways apart, or you spend 5 years intensively trying to teach something to somebody that it's taken you 30 years to learn. Anything in between wouldn't do either party any good. And I would think that Vince McMahon would be hard-pressed to spend 5 minutes in the room with Tony Khan talking about wrestling. Between the less than cohesive trains of thought that Tony has leave his station because of the Adderall or his natural energy level or whatever the case may be, and Vince being a businessman in this business with 50 years experience in it and having two completely different personalities and thought processes, I can't imagine. Vince would be clamoring for the door after just a few. I'm sure Tony would stay there all day. Vince would be wanting to get out of that fucking room.
Our next question, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Samuel. The Undertaker recently said on Broken Skull Sessions that Vince McMahon was, quote, not a Flair guy. Both him and Stone Cold were talking about Flair being the wrestler's favorite wrestler. In the WWE Network Ruthless Aggression documentary series, one of the focal points was Triple H restoring Ric's confidence. Does Vince not respect Flair? Honestly, it seems like Vince has never really respected Ric the way 99.9% of the industry does.
Yes and no. Vince respects Ric as a person at least as much as he respects anybody. I know some people are going to say, well, he had him doing the angle with his daughter and Lena Horne, but no, Lacey Evans. Vince respects who Ric Flair has been, what he's done, his longevity, the dedication he's had to the business, the fact that he was the guy for the only opposition that Vince had there for quite a while, etc. Vince never liked Ric Flair's style of wrestling or style of matches, and he wouldn't be Vince McMahon's favorite wrestler or even in the top 50. Vince McMahon's favorite kind of wrestler was Hulk Hogan. The exact antithesis. Vince has always wanted to make it entertainment. Vince has always wanted to make it cartoon characters or the male soap opera or all the other nom de plumes that Vince has come up with to describe what he does instead of wrestling. It's all about the marketing and the merchandising and the dropping the pretense of it being real. We don't want to insult our audience. That's all been Vince. And Hulk Hogan was perfect for that. And Flair was not. Because Flair got over by trying to make people believe in him, in his matches, in the business, in whatever. So Vince has been very nice and accommodating to Rick. He's released Rick when Rick asked more times than he's released any other talent I can think of that's ever worked for him on purpose. And at the talent's request. Because the first time Rick went up there, he told him and he kept his word. Vince told Rick, if I ever come to the point where I don't want to use you as a top guy, the top guy, I don't know how it was phrased, in the title picture, I'll give you your release. And about a year later, that time came and he did. And he went back, and Flair went back to WCW. But no, Vince does not like that kind of wrestling for whatever reason. The good shit, he always wanted it to be entertainment, theme parks. He said he wanted to be the Walt Disney of wrestling. He wasn't concerned about the credibility of the business. It's all entertainment. It's all a show. So that is completely opposite of everything that Flair's whole gimmick and way of working stood for. And it's just not the kind of wrestling that Vince likes. For what? And he liked Bret Hart. But goddamn, if you leave Vince and when he has Bret Hart in front of him, he'll use Bret Hart. But when you leave Vince to his own devices, he'll go to a Hulk Hogan or an Ultimate Warrior. And that's why the audiences have always been so different. Either WWF in the 80s and against NWA, WWF in the 90s against WCW, or now, unfortunately, the audience are still different, WWE versus AEW, but the WWE product is now the believable one. So, but that's what it's not that he doesn't respect the guy, but he's never liked that kind of matches. He would rather have promoted Hulk Hogan versus the Ultimate Warrior than Ric Flair versus Ricky Steamboat. Even if the gates were the same, I think.
Makes you wonder what he would have done with Flair if he had gotten him in either 85 or 88.
I don't think we would be sitting here talking about Ric Flair still being a fucking guy that's asking for his release to go to other places, because he wouldn't have had the timelessness. Rick needed to be at a place where he could be Rick, not be a member of a cast of performers.
All right, Jim, our final question,
which, by the way, before we get to that, which, by the way, is what doomed him on his first time in 91, because they brought him in and immediately made Ric Flair one of the boys on the roster instead of the outsider that he went in as. Remember? When they had the whole stink over suing over the belt, they just dropped the whole thing and he became a member of the roster, and that was it. The way to bring him in at that point was the outside disruptor. And the other side got it right 5 years later when they did the same thing with Vince's guys, but did it right.
I was about to think of this question, but I think I know the answer. I'll just ask you just in case. WCW made more money with Flair versus Hogan than Vince did, right?
Yes.
Much more. Yeah.
Because those people had especially been waiting to see it. But the problem is WCW at that point had been taken over by Turner, and they thought Hogan was the fucking deal. So they fucked it up. The people had been waiting to see Flair versus Hogan, to see Ric Flair kick the shit out of Hulk Hogan. All the WCW fans, all the NWA fans. My God, if you'd have had Ric Flair versus Hulk Hogan in 1986 in Charlotte, it would have sold out and Flair would have been a raving babyface. Because those people wanted to see him kick shit out of Hulk Hogan. The WWF fans probably wanted to see Hogan leg drop Flair, but not nearly as much as the NWA fans wanted to see Ric Flair kick shit out of Hulk Hogan. But then when they finally had it in WCW, Hulk Hogan still kicked the shit out of Ric Flair. And those fans, most of them didn't like it. Anyway.
I'm not sure at the end Flair liked it either when he was told, oh, by the way, you're about to lose a retirement match.
Yeah.
What?
No, and it got to the point where Flair was tired of it too, as well as the fans. They had to, they made the mistake of thinking because Hogan and all of the ex-WWF guys in WCW in the 90s, Hall and Nash, were such huge stars in their previous environment and then were brought in a top spot, they forgot that ultimately the fans of their product would like to win in the end. But in this case, the invaders and the people from outside, the outsiders, the foreigners, not our guys, but the ones that are against us, they ended up winning everything. That's what ran the fucking company out of business. That would be like Vince hiring all the AEW guys and having the AEW guys come in and kick the shit out of his guys, not just the first time around to get heat and set up a rivalry, but over and over and in the end. Jesus Christ.
Well, Jim, our final question here this week, sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Lance. Wanted to know your thoughts on Cody Rhodes calling Triple H his favorite wrestler and comparing him to his dad.
Okay, I was not aware that this happened.
Me neither.
Was Cody evaluated after this? A concussion protocol?
Well, the booking styles are certainly the same in terms of the worst of their booking, Triple H and Dusty, putting themselves over past the point where people want to see that.
I can't think of another similarity.
Nothing in the ring?
What? I mean, that's not.
What else could Cody compare
knocking either Dusty Rhodes or Triple H to say I see no similarity in their in-ring styles, in their promo styles, in their personalities, except for, as you mentioned, possibly, hanging on at the top a little bit too long or staying past their welcome. I didn't know that Triple H was Cody's favorite wrestler. Is that what he said also?
That's what it says here. Again, I'm basing it on this email. I'll look up, see if there's anything out there.
Well, Cody is the youngest Rhodes child, so he wasn't around when his dad was in the ring against Terry Funk or, any of his other great rivalries or even Flair himself. But, I don't know what to say about that, to be honest with you. Otherwise than Cody may be on some drugs.
I don't know about that, but I'm pulling up some quotes here. Here's a quote. This is from the website comicbook.com. Connor Casey, the author. Well, it's just quotes here. He didn't write the quotes. But this is from a Cody interview. So I don't know if I should share this, but at some point, it's going to come off my chest. Triple H is probably my favorite
wrestler. Just like
wrestler.
that tattoo's going to come off his neck at some point.
Oh, we can only hope. Triple H is probably my favorite wrestler and was a role model, Rhodes told Inside the Ropes. I only watched from a distance, but he reminded me a lot of my dad in the sense that I watched him do all the work, be this executive, and then go out there, and he was only part-time for the most part, other than when I first started and had that run with him and Teddy and Sean. He really was a model in terms of, okay, you can do both. You can do both. But you have to be really disciplined. You have to take it really seriously. And that doesn't get you many friends. And then he goes on and on from there.
Yeah, okay.
What do you think that says about the idea that Cody and Brandy have clearly tried to be the Triple H and Stephanie of AEW in front of the camera and behind the camera, and the whole smashing of the throne thing way back and all that?
That's the thing, is that apparently Cody is hung up on Triple H being the heir apparent, and he wants to be the heir apparent of Dusty's legacy, even if he has to, bilk the billionaire that started his own company to do it. So and I didn't honestly, remember what show was it? Their very first pay-per-view when he broke the throne, or was it the first TV show?
First pay-per-view, I believe.
I'm like, why did he hit the chair? Remember, I was like, Brian, why did he hit the chair? Because of Triple H, the throne, the crowd. Oh, okay, now I get it. It's playing on his mind a lot more, apparently, than most people dwell on it. This rivalry in his head with Triple H or whatever. I'm sorry. Brandy's not Vince McMahon's daughter, and Brandy's not a real good wrestling talent, except when she's promoting or promoing Jane Cargill. That's not to say that Stephanie is a great booker or writer, but she's at least the blood family and going to inherit it. So I can understand, Triple H wanting to be a part of that family. But it's like the fucking, the president and the first lady, and then over here the others are the Pruitts from Southampton. They're a little bit farther down. That was a great Phyllis Diller show in the 60s, the Pruitts of Southampton.
Well, Jim, I lied. One last question.
All right, because that one sucked.
This one sent to CornyDriveThru@gmail.com from Jeff in Washington. Do you think Vince McMahon would pay CM Punk to no-show or back out of an AEW deal?
Do I think he would if CM Punk would agree to it? Possibly. Do I think CM Punk would agree to it? No. And then also there would be some type of legal exposure on Punk's side, because if obviously he's not going to be on TV if he hasn't signed a contract of some description. And if he had, and then he took money to not fulfill the obligation of that contract, then it would be legally actionable. This questioner is thinking back to when Vince tried to pay Harley Race $100,000 not to show up at Starrcade, or try to pay the Iron Sheik X amount of dollars to break, or to Vern tried to pay Sheik X amount of dollars to break Hogan's leg, or whatever the case. There weren't any written contracts in those days in this business. It was, you're booked, you show up, you get paid whatever the promoter pays you. You either like it and come back, or you don't like it and you don't. Nobody knew how the business was worked or who was in charge of it, so you couldn't take things to court. Nobody would go to court most of the time anyway, because it exposed the business. The people that did go to court and exposed the business were blackballed for it, like the Poffos filing a lawsuit for antitrust against the established promoters. That just led to more of their talent being blackballed and not used by those people that were sued. So that's not possible today, is what I'm saying. Would he, if CM Punk said, yeah, Vince, give me $100,000 and I'll fuck him, he might do that, but I don't see it happening, because Punk wouldn't, and somebody would end up in court over it. Stephen P. New, 888-692-8084.
So we end the way we started, and with that, the drive-thru has closed. Thank you very much, and we'll be springing back into step this weekend on the Jim Cornette Experience, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Saturday, the show will debut, and of course, next week, right back here on Tuesday with the drive-thru. You can follow Jim on Twitter at @TheJimCornette. You can follow me on Twitter at GreatBrianLast. You can hear me on the 605 Superpodcast at 605pod.com, available wherever you find your favorite podcast. Don't forget the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel, over 230,000 subscribers and growing every day. Be one of them to get first access to clips, full episodes, and omnibus collections, all with the very popular exclusive Travis Heckel artwork, the official Jim Cornette YouTube channel. You get access classic episodes of the drive-thru and the experience by becoming a patron. Patreon.com/Cornette. For only $5 a month, you get access to the archives of the drive-thru and the experience going back to the beginning in 2013. Another big batch of drive-thru episodes from the summer of 2017 just went up. Patreon.com/Cornette. Don't forget about Cornette's collectibles at JimCornette.com, or maybe forget about it until September.
Don't forget, just mark that date on your calendar. We'll have a firm date probably by next week, but Labor Day weekend.
At JimCornette.com. The drive-thru is brought to you by the Law Office of Stephen P. New, 888-692-8084. Get even with Stephen at newlawoffice.com. But until Saturday on The Experience, and next week back here on the drive-thru, for Jim Cornette, I'm the great Brian Last. Tally ho!